Hello, everyone, and welcome to SmashBoxxTV's podcast 278. Terry Miller, the disc golf guy, along with Johnny V.
The disc golf dude. No?
I think that's been taken officially.
Oh, I guarantee you that if you can put a descriptor around disc golf, it has been taken. Disc golf girl, disc golf dude, disc golf guy, clearly. Disc golf sir, crazy disc golf dude. I guarantee you the descriptors are all taken at this point in our sport.
Probably, and I think all the way back to some of our Wisconsin roots, where the disc dude was one of the premier promoters, ambassadors, and enthusiasts, I think is really the best way to describe him, up in Green Bay, Wisconsin, not far from where all the old Packers play, right up there at Baird Creek Park in Green Bay, Wisconsin, or whatever. Maybe that was technically something else, but yeah, disc dude, and that dates all the way back to the mid-90s probably when he was out there doing stuff. So plenty of names that have run around, and now we got the Swedish disc golf guy and the Finnish disc golf guy and all these other guys. Postures, I tell ya.
Well, I know they don't call you the Finnish disc golf guy because you don't tend to finish anything.
Hey-oh!
Wait a minute.
Didn't
you just release some videos?
I did them? Just literally moments ago. Not only did I get an unboxing in before we got the show going, and I posted my first ever IGTV on Instagram, IGTV post, where I did a little bit of an unboxing for something cool that arrived, but also moments ago I hit send, upload, publish, finish, whatever you want to call it, on the YouTubes, and the final competitive video from the Croatia event, the Drava Forester, has been posted. So over the last few days, I've been rolling those out after I got done posting all of Norway, then Nantucket, now Croatia. Croatia's done. I've got another event that may come out in the next day or two, and then we're going to get right into the South Florida Open, which I was just at. Editing for that is already moving along. Commentary will happen in the next couple days. So it
Fantastic.
is, there is something to be said about this being the slower time of year. And some people saying, well, we don't really have fresh content. We're seeing SmashBoxx, thanks to me, putting out all these. Okay, maybe not. No, but you've been putting together, as we've talked about, highlight reels, some low-light reels, some unfortunate breaks, and all that kind of stuff. But you really have gone through and highlighted a number of the players that we've seen over and over on our footage. As of yesterday, you released a Katrina Allen highlight piece that you put together.
And it just goes to show you how, if you go and watch that, how good she is off the tee. And I know we can talk all we want about, some of her faults near the basket, but just watching her drive is a pleasure.
Yeah, she's clearly just so deadly. And that's probably the number one resounding, without getting too off on a sidetrack here, the resounding remark that you see over and over again, especially on that highlight piece, is people saying, if or when she just cleans up a few of those putts, she seems to be unstoppable. And it's crazy to think how close she is week in and week out with her number one competitor in Paige Pierce. And you clean up a few of those unfortunate breaks or missed putts that she's had, and it's crazy how often she may have come out on top. So we look forward to her having a great year here in 2020. So
she's in Cancun right now. I think I saw on her Instagram story.
That's Austin.
Her and Austin she said that this is her first real vacation in about 7 years. She posted a picture of looked like an infinity pool and just said she's excited to relax.
Yeah, and rightfully deserved. And then as those two were, traveling around in a camper this year, pulling their camper behind a truck, I can't imagine all of the work and energy and effort that goes into that. I don't know how much easier or not that is than, say, driving an even larger RV. Both of them, I'm sure, have their challenges. So those are being released, as you talked about. I think Jomez has released some slow-mez footage as well.
Follow flights or something, too.
Follow flights and all of that good stuff. So, of course, you have that to take in. But in terms of actual fresh, never-seen-before content, that's somewhere where I'm trying to fill in that void or that gap right now. And as many of you have seen, Norway being available, the PCS Open, And then I went from Norway to Nantucket, which is funny. I did those back-to-back weeks, but did them in reverse order on release. Norway, Nantucket, Croatia. So please go out and enjoy it. It's there for the taking. So tonight we are going to welcome one of the most winningest disc golfers we've ever seen, easily a Hall of Fame member, and known as one of the nicest, most friendly, sometimes too friendly. I've heard, I've been experienced. We're gonna have Brian Schweberger. He's gonna be joining us actually in just a few minutes. It'll be great to have him on the show. I know sometimes he chimes in from the chat board, and a guy that not only has this incredible playing accolades and titles and everything that else that he's done, but he's just genuinely just a super fun guy to be around. Both him and his wife Ashley, you find them at tournaments often, and the tour life in terms of being out and on the road and around the country, that was something he did, we'll say, in yesterdecade, but
the early aughts.
He is getting things done in his region, his neck of the woods, so to speak. So we'll catch up with him tonight. Also, what else did we see that was going on? We'll talk a little bit about the South Florida Open. As I just mentioned, I was down there. I think this was the 4th year in a row. I had the pleasure of being down in Florida. This was the Fort Lauderdale, West Palm Beach, kind of Miami-ish area. Took place more so near Fort Lauderdale than really anywhere else this year. It was a little bit more centralized in that regard. Had a really good weekend down there. We ultimately saw 4 rounds of golf at 3 different courses. Maybe not too many shockers or spoilers, but when we get to the winners and the top performers, we'll talk about those a little bit later once we're done talking to Brian Schweberger. So outside of that, I don't know that there's a lot going on. Did we see any sponsorship news that we should touch on quickly? That was
Peter McBride separated from DD.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know the details particularly about it. I don't know if they've even really been released, whether he decided to voluntarily leave or he was released from not a contract, but released from the sponsorship. But we did see that. I think last week we already saw Missy Gannon. She moved over to Discraft. Yuli made a post about how their elite team is now full.
That's weird. You didn't get a call.
You don't know that.
True.
You've never been to the secret elite team.
Oh yes, the secret one that no one ever talks about or gets publicized or referenced.
That page. That's a whole different HTML page.
Okay.
It's the super secret elite team.
And,
I might or may not be part of that.
Okay. I'm going to guess may not.
May not. Hey, I throw some Discraft discs. And
yes, you do.
I throw them okay.
Sometimes.
Yes,
and then also I think just before the start of the show, I also saw previous AM world champion and also a cold turkey champion multiple times over. We also saw Stephen Jacobs, I think, has departed from Team Dynamic Discs as well. So I saw a post. He said this isn't a sad post, I think is what he said. He is excited to play some more golf. He's had, it might have been a meniscus tear or something of that nature. I know he's been somewhat sidelined recently and hasn't been playing as much this year as he has in the previous years. And he has been in the past with Dynamic Disc for the last few years. But it sounds like he also is no longer going to be on part of that sponsored team.
It really feels like Dynamic Disc is kind of shedding some of the players that maybe weren't full-time touring pros, that have become more of a regional pro. And other than Jordan Castro, who was more or less a full-time touring pro, it seems like a lot of their, I don't want to call them like their second-tier pros are starting to either leave or be shed. So it's an interesting way to look at it. It's an interesting business model to see what exactly they're doing. And I'm excited to see what happens with them in 2020.
Well, I think it's something Paul Macbeth alluded to last year when we talked about contracts and what this really means is, are we going to see a few of these teams, and Jeremy Rusko spoke of this as well last week, are we going to see a few of these teams kind of as you say, shed or reduce a little bit on the fringe, we'll say, of maybe some of their non-top performers or most notable players, but then be able to support our their top performers a little bit more. And I think that seems to be the model that is happening. And truth be told, think about if people are in fact on any form of, we'll say, a trial or probation kind of time over at Discraft. And I only say that because think of how many people they've picked up in the last 2 years. Obviously, it was Paul, and then this huge watershed of people in the last 2 years. One has to wonder, is that sustainable? Or if we fast forward 1 year or 2 years, will they start then looking, and I think your term was fringe, or maybe I made that up, but will they start looking at maybe some of those players that are not either on tour full-time or are not, resoundingly performing, and will then they have another, will they kind of trim things up, and then where will those players go from there? So like you said, it's a business decision. I think that's what we can look forward to or should look out for in the next couple of years is once these people are being, scooped up or gobbled up or acquired, what is it going to mean in 2 or 3 years? So looking forward to it. All right.
Discraft, get your website together.
You're saying it's not?
I'm saying that is kind of confusing because I know that when I go to team and you can go to the 2020 Elite Tracker and the team Discraft and it's different and it's confusing to people, I think. So we need to get rid of the old Elite team. The Elite team is still through 2019. That's the thing. Like this Elite team is, you see Paul and Nate and everything, and their new 2020 is their tracker team. So it's just a matter of
disclaimer that says 2019 versus 2020.
Yes, I think putting the 2019 team on there would make things way less confusing for people, as opposed to, because if you might want to say like, oh, who's sponsored, just make it a little bit more clear. We love you, but I just needed a little bit more clear because I wanted to look at some of the touring team of the players that maybe on like you see an Alex Geisinger or Ben Calloway, Brad Schick, and some of these players. And then you've got the huge core team, the women's team, the international team, the workforce, the masters team, the junior team. Those were the players that I was going to look at and wonder if we're going to see that type of fringe player shed in response to some of the big signings that they've done. Will they have to kind of make those decisions, or are they going to be able to keep that entire team?
Well, apparently you're not alone. Courtney on the board says, thank you, Johnny V. That drives me bonkers on their website. So, and Alexis Munez, we appreciate the super chat. All right, we're going to see if we can dial up Brian Schweberger and get him here on the show. He might have some big sponsorship news. I think we're going to hear from him, and he can give us some updates along those lines here in just a moment. So Johnny V is going to click a magic button or two, and while he's doing that, we see Schwebby hanging out in our Disc Baron Digital Green Room, and we can now welcome him to the show. Schwebby, how we doing, buddy?
Doing good, man. How y'all doing?
We're doing great. It is Tuesday night. We're live here on SmashBoxx, as we are almost every Tuesday, other than next Tuesday, people. And things can be better. We got one of our favorite people on.
Schwebby.
It's you.
Yeah. You win often. How do you keep doing it?
I ask myself that every single time. Because the older I get, the less practice time I put in. And I think I'm addicted to winning. So it just comes a little bit more natural to me. And it's just, I've done it so many times that sometimes I just don't really have nerves anymore, except hole one of USDGC every year. That's about it.
Well, and that was going to be one of my questions is, with the amount of success that you've had, do you feel like you just mentally have that much more of an advantage of some other people that are knocking on maybe only that second ever win or their first win or or maybe they've only won 3 or 4 events in their 20-year career. Do you have maybe just some of that natural, at ease built inside of you now?
I think so. I mean, after 669 tournaments, I mean, it's become more than second nature. It's really my life. I mean, I've made disc golf my living. I mean, I still work part time for Domino's, but I mean, I'm still playing at least 40 tournaments a year. I still have one more this year. So I think it's just the repetitions that I've had. I've made everything pretty easy as far as what I need to do to keep my game at a certain level.
Now, talk about the amount of events that you're playing, and not only maybe your age, but how do you physically keep yourself playing that often at that level?
I definitely believe that the stretching I do makes a huge difference. I mean, I definitely do not work out. I should, but I mean, I don't because some of my body parts don't allow me to do a lot of specific style trainings. I'm in bad wrists, so I can't really lift weights. I got my right knee is not 100%, so I can't really do a lot of walking or even trying to run to try and do anything like that. I got a recumbent bike, and I did that for a solid 2 months earlier this year, and it created a little bit of a knee issue even more, so I had to stop that. So it's just a matter of learning to do what you have to do to keep going on to the next event.
Now, you've kind of famously owned the overhand shot and was such a go-to shot for so many years. Some people would either second guess you or feel like they knew more than you, whatever the case might be. Some people fully encouraged it and rallied around you because that's a go-to shot maybe for them. But when it comes to throwing overhands, where's that tool in your arsenal to this day?
Right now it's probably 95% as far as the ability I have to throw it. I mean, a year and a half ago, I couldn't throw it at all because my thumb was messed up and my wrist was messed up. So I was dominantly backhand. I mean, I can't even throw sidearm because my wrist is so bad. I mean, I have to rely on my thumber for getting out of any trouble that North Carolina woods. You need an escape shot. So
You need a couple of them, not just one. You need a few of them usually.
yep.
Any pain in your shoulder whatsoever? I mean, yeah. Answer that first. Any pain from throwing them ever?
No. Like I said, I do a lot of stretching, preparing before each round to make sure that knock on wood, I've never had a shoulder issue.
So I'll follow that up by saying, what would your advice be? I know your athletic background, your tennis, and other things, but what would your advice be when someone says, yeah, an overhand shot, a thumber shot, whatever, that's kind of my go-to shot, and I really want to make that a main staple in my bag and in my game? Would you have advice for a new player or a newer player right now?
I would say don't do it.
Okay.
I mean, I'm think I'm a little bit of an anomaly as far as not being injured in my shoulder as far as the overhand goes.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, people might know me for my thumber, but I mean, it's only like 15% of my shots. So,
Okay.
I mean, most of my shots are backhand.
How much, let's rewind, I don't know, let's go back 15 years, 10 or 15 years. What was the percentage of your overhand shots at that point?
I mean, still 15, maybe 20%.
Okay.
Yes. I mean, when my first pro worlds in 2002, I mean, it was in Texas and Houston, and it was wide open. I mean, I finished 5th there, and I would say it was like maybe 10% of my shots were thumber there. So it's not like I need them. It's just a helpful tool for when you want to throw something that you know is going to do what it's supposed to do.
Now,
no thought.
Now you talked about working. Would you consider it part time when you work with Domino's? Is that is that
part time? Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday.
Okay. Now that pretty much has kept you as a regional player. Maybe that's not the reason. Maybe it's just the style of the golf. But break down for people, you know, where and when you like to travel and what kind of sets up your tour schedule.
Well, I mean, I can take off as much time as I want from Domino's. I have a very flexible schedule. Luckily, the owner of my particular Domino's, he played disc golf in at college at NC State, so he knows
Nice.
exactly what I'm doing. He understands it, and he has no problem with me adjusting my schedule for what I need it for. So, as far as where I play, I mean, I like to play on well-run tournaments. Um, if I know I can get to Kansas City, I'm going to get to Kansas City because I love Waterworks, and especially if they're going to use it in the tournament, it's one of my favorite courses. I didn't get to go to Alaska this year, but I'm going to hopefully get back there this coming year. Just the Masters Worlds was scheduled the same weekend as the Alaska tournament this year, and I ended up not going to Worlds because I was burnt out at that point, and I really didn't want to drive up there and then practice two courses that I'd never played before, even though I've seen them on video a lot. But yeah, it's all dependent on. I like to stay within 5 or 6 hours of home. So in this region, you can play a lot of tournaments in that small of an area.
Well, and I was just going to follow that up and say exactly that. When you're in that area, every weekend there's a tournament. You know, if it's not in your backyard, it's in your best friend's backyard just down the road, and you always have plenty of golf to play. And like you said, plenty of solid tournaments to choose from. What gets you to travel outside of maybe that 5 or 6 hours? I know you just mentioned Waterworks. You mentioned Alaska. Is there anything else that has piqued your interest that you think, wow, I would go? I'd like to get to this area, or you've been to an area, or whatever it might be.
I mean, I've been going down to the Jacksonville A tier that comes in. I think it's February or March every year for the last couple of years, and I've enjoyed that. It's nice to get down to some warmer weather in the earlier months of the year. It's not really my style of golf, but I play well there. I mean, it's pretty much wide open golf. They have a couple wooded holes, but it's fun. Bunch of players that I don't ever get to play with, so it's nice to play with different people. But as far as piquing my interest for other tournaments, I mean, it's just the travel versus the costs and what I could get out of it. Because I mean, I've gotten to the point where I don't really like to be away from home more than 2 weeks at a time. So to play a bunch of bigger events, it's a little taxing on me. I've put in my time as far as the traveling goes, and to keep it more regional is a lot more fun for me.
Well, let's backtrack on that just for a moment. And well, let me first ask: 40 tournaments so far. You said you've got one more. What goes into the decision process? 25% of the events you've played this year have been in the open division. 10 out of the 40 have been in open. What is that deciding factor for when you show up to an event? Are you going to play open or masters?
Well, the few that I played in open this year, sometimes they weren't offering a masters division, so I had no choice. But I mean, in general, playing with people that are my own age has been a lot more enjoyable.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's just a lot less intense. But I mean, I did all right. I mean, I won 4 out of the 10 that I played, so I mean, I did pretty good.
Yeah, absolutely. I was going to say the fact that you're getting the open wins when you go in there and compete, and you did well in all of them. I mean, you had a 6th place finish at one of them, and then the USDGC obviously is an open event, and you cash there in 47th place still. So you perform very well when you go to them. It's just I always think when there's events going on in North Carolina or in that area, I think, well, where did Schwebi play? Where did Schultz play?
Where did MJ play now?
MJ, did they battle against each other? Were they in different divisions that weekend? And what kind of gets factored into those decisions?
Yeah, I mean, well, the one tournament I got to play with MJ this year was at the Savannah Open in January, and we hadn't played together in probably 2 or 3 years, and he decided to play Masters and just so we could hang out for a few rounds. And at that point, I wasn't 100% healthy, so I knew he was probably going to kick my butt, and he did. He would have. I think he would have finished tied for the lead in Open and would have been in the final 6 holes playoff for to try and win, but. Yeah, it was. I mean, it was a great time playing with MJ. I probably played more tournament rounds with him than any other player.
Now, for those who may not know, and I know this, of course, this isn't to sound insulting, but we talk all the time that we're now moving into this generation and this new influx of players who don't recognize or necessarily know a Ken Climo or
Barry Schultz.
a Barry Schultz or someone like yourself. But you were so instrumental in some of those early touring days, and there were people that toured before you, but you guys really took touring to another level. Explain for everybody, for all the youngsters, the youngins out there, or the newcomers to the sport, who you toured with and what that meant in that time in disc golf and when that was.
When I was out full time in the RV, it was me, Brian McCree, and Billy Crump, and Yukon, Brian's dog. Can't forget Yukon, beautiful husky.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, we toured together in my little RV, and there was about 15 to 20 other full time golfers out there at that point. It was Rico and Ron Russell and Nate Doss, Avery Felberg, Cam Todd, Leslie, Mike Worm Young, Ab Shack, Sue Stevens,
Todd Branch.
Yep. I mean, there was a bunch of us. I mean, and the thing about what the tour then and what I've seen as far as the tour goes now, we all hung out together when we were on tour. We were a solidified family no matter what at every tournament. We hung out together. After every Monday, it was no disc golf. It was just have fun on Monday. We'd all find something to do on that day, whether it was in that area or maybe someplace just near it, and we'd all go hang out.
Yeah, you guys. Sorry, I was gonna say you guys went to amusement parks. You were at the Price is Right.
Yeah, the Price is Right.
I mean, you guys always were doing, Monday Fun Day, and what a way to decompress. And these people you were battling with, fighting tooth and nail with just, 24 hours earlier, trying to rally up every single dollar that you could possibly win in the heat of competition. And then the very next day, you guys were all together. Was there any, I mean, we didn't have social media like we do now. Was there ever any infighting at all among you guys?
Maybe a little bit with Brad Hammock.
Okay.
I mean, everybody always had some kind of issue with Brad at one time or another.
Okay.
I mean, but yeah, other than that, no, everybody was pretty copacetic all the time, man. We had such a good time, and if somebody was broke down, somebody'd be right there to help them out and get them going, so they wouldn't have to worry about being stranded.
So, I mean, I know that's kind of nostalgic as we think about it, and there's so many positives to that, but do you see positives? Are we moving in the right direction? Maybe it's a little more segregated, but is the sport and our athletes progressing, or did we lose too much?
No, I think it's progressing all right. I mean, you never know what's the wrong way until it's absolutely the wrong way. I mean, I don't think there's been any really real super negative thing happen as far as what is going on with the tour now that's not recoverable from. I mean, I think keep doing what they're doing, and eventually something's going to happen. I mean, we've been saying that for how long?
30 years.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, it's like, that in 5 years we're going to hit that big sponsorship that's going to make everything great. But I mean, everybody keeps on saying that and keeps on saying that. So I hope to see it before I'm gone, but I'm not holding my breath.
Mhm.
I mean, I'm happy where I'm at. I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing, and I hope everybody else gets more out of it than what I've gotten out of it. That means they'll be doing a great thing.
Well, and that you're exactly right. I feel that way all the time that, we're all of us are in our early stages, of course, of disc golf. Do you ever, maybe woulda, coulda, shoulda, or wish that, maybe your time and your prime was not for another 10 or 20 or 30 years because you might have, be able to take more advantage of what's yet to come?
Sure. I mean, shoot, I wish I had started playing 10 years younger than I did. I mean, I started playing until I was 24 years old.
Hmm.
And yeah, I mean, I think I could have probably had a couple world titles in that period of time just based on the level of players that we had back then versus what there is now, and just the overall level of um, the plastic that's made now. I mean, it's absolutely changed the game completely.
Well, and to be fair, I'll lump you in, of course, with us that
Ooh.
back when you got started, there was really there was pretty much just Innova and Discraft, and then DX and D weren't even a thing. They were just the one disc that they had. It wasn't until later Elite and Pro and Champion all finally started, coming out and defining, different categories. But, your first ever disc was just a regular old disc, and it was like every other one with the same kind of plastic that was out there. What was your first disc?
DX Shark.
Okay.
Yeah,
And
and the
who gave
Sharks
you
are
that?
still in my bag to this day.
That is, it should be. Who gave you that? Do you remember? Who'd you go out with?
Oh yeah, Jerry Baker, the guy who introduced me to the game.
Okay. Yeah. Awesome. Now, um, with the competitiveness, there's always that question, and you're one of those guys again that can bridge both of these generations or multiple generations, whatever you want to call it, where we're at. What do you make of the conversation piece when someone talks about what Ken Climo, has done and how he'll go down in history and with his legacy, as opposed to someone like, Paul Macbeth, and when things like the GOAT get discussed? Do you pay any attention to that? Do you roll your eyes? Do you have a strong feeling one way or another?
Uh, I mean, that's like going MJ and LeBron. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it's they didn't really play much against each other. Well, LeBron and MJ didn't play against each other at all. But I mean, Kenny and Macbeth have played in tournaments together, and I think both of them have beaten each other in different tournaments. So I mean, it's really hard to say. I mean, because I played so much with Kenny.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I've only played like maybe 3 or 4 tournament rounds with Paul, but I mean, the world titles say a lot.
They do.
I mean, Kenny was beating the best players in the game by many strokes for. I mean, it was 9 straight years at one point, and I mean, what Paul did against all the other players for 4 straight years was damn impressive, and I
Mm-hmm.
was thinking that he was going to do something similar, but I mean, there's so many great players, and the technology has changed so much where it's brought everybody's level of ability up. I mean, Kenny just did it with hyzer flip power and great putting all the time. Because I mean, he didn't have a sidearm. There was no disc that could really handle sidearm power. I mean, except for Stokely,
Mm-hmm.
and he was doing it with X clones.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and as so many of our viewers will have no idea what a Viper is or what a Whippet was, or really maneuvering a Cobra or a Stingray like we saw Kenny do for so many years, and to think about where those discs are in the history books as opposed to what's getting used today. I mean, just perfectly depicts your point about the technology, the consistency, and then the options that are available. We're in totally different worlds, really.
Yeah, we are. I mean, it's not even. It's. I mean, it's like in ball golf, you have the persimmon wood drivers, and now they're hitting these massive head drivers that all they have to do is just swing easy, and they don't even have to hit it in the center of the club. With the persimmons, you had to hit it in the screws, or it wasn't going anywhere. Yeah, so I think the technology is the biggest difference on where you can actually say who the greatest of all time is. I mean, there's too much difference.
So knowing that you've seen so many different discs and all of the advancements, and you may or may not, I don't know, have an aerodynamics or engineering degree in your back pocket, but do you feel like there's a lot of room for the technology to still advance, or are we getting to a plateau? Have we kind of maybe started, reaching that edge of where discs and the technology is going to take us?
Yeah, I don't see where it can get much different. I mean, if you start making this any more sharp than they already are, they're going to become extremely dangerous, and that's not good for the game. So,
and there's regulations against that. There's technical standards that, say that the disc can only have a certain, just that sharpness to their leading edge, and that they have to have a certain amount of pliability to them, and those types of things. So, if we're sticking within our industry standards and specs, you're exactly right. I think that's more of a safety precaution than anything.
yeah, I mean, if we're really at a plateau as far as the speed of the discs, I mean, it's a good stopping point to see where everybody is in 10, 15 years from now, and how the game is going to be changing as far as the level of ability of every other player that's coming up the ranks.
Now, we're seeing the disc may or may not have plateaued, but what we're not seeing, Cap, is the new sponsorship agreements, situations, support mechanisms between Tour Series discs and just flat out Signature Series discs and RVs and monthly stipends. I mean, who would have thought? What do you make of where sponsorship and the business side have evolved?
I'm ecstatic for all the players that have been able to make all these great achievements as far as the monetary values that they're getting. I like to think that I had a little foot in the door as far as getting that going. I mean, I didn't get to see much of it, but not upset about it. I hate money. I mean, if I was playing disc golf for money, I would have quit years ago.
I was just gonna say,
All of us.
None of us are here for the money, and that even goes as far as your Paige Pierces and your Paul Macbeths and your Cats and your Rickies. They may be earning good money or decent money now, but they're clearly not here because of the money.
Not where they started.
Yeah. Although it is incredible. I mean, think about your RV, what you had, which I want to say was like a medium-sized one. I think I'd...
It was a 19-foot Toyota Dolphin chassis.
Okay, so, that I think compares maybe to what, like Eric and Tina, or maybe like the Discmania one that's been around. Does that seem about the same size?
Yeah, about that size, yeah.
Somewhere in that neighborhood. But now we have these massive RVs that are wrapped front to back. Everybody is touring around in either an RV or a van that they've decked out. Just incredible to see our entire group of touring players, dare I say, step up their game, evolve. It's pretty exciting.
Oh yeah, I mean, I wish we had that Sprinter style van back then. I would probably stay down the road a little longer, because I could have done that on my own, but it's all good.
So, needless to say, you're not bitter, you're not jaded, and you don't feel like you're not getting yours, so to speak. You're okay with where you're at.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I'm just it's cool to see all these players doing what they love, just the way I do still today.
Who do you enjoy watching? Like, do you ever consume some of the stuff that's out there on the internet, the YouTube, the videos, the stuff, the live, the Jomez stuff? And if you do,
I watch it all.
Who do you enjoy watching the most right now?
I really enjoy watching the women play. I mean, I don't get to play with them, so the fact that mainly Terry's getting all that video out there by traveling to the events and capturing all the video of them playing. I mean, it's awesome. They need more. They need more coverage. I mean, and you're doing it. So it's got to get the. I mean, everybody. It's always going to see the men play, but not everybody gets to see the women play.
Yeah, it's there's clearly a need, and we always talk about the economics of it and whether or not those are there. But I think just from a what's right and wrong kind of standpoint, there should be a fancy word I can't think of, but it's the right thing to be doing. Now, I will tie that to your tennis background, and tennis is kind of always one of those example sports, and I'll be the first to admit that I learned it from a Sarah Holcomb presentation at one point, but it was really tennis that she honed in on as that equal pay for men and women.
Mm-hmm.
And how that all came about many years ago, and the protests and everything that came from that. Do you have a strong feeling? I mean, we see such a small participation on the women's side. It's roughly 7% of our overall disc golf population. But we have such a small group of women playing. How do we get more women, but also how do we create more equality?
Well, I mean, with tennis is there's just as many players in the women's fields as there are in the men's fields, so they have no reason not to get equal pay. I mean, the field sizes are always identical on both sides, especially like in the majors. There's, I think it's 144 on each side, and they play down 7 matches, and they get their chance. They get paid. I mean, I don't see how the women can get paid equally in disc golf when there's not as much participation.
Yeah, until we start filling out those fields, it's going to be it's going to be a
Fields
very
have
tough
have to get bigger. As far as getting more women out there to play, I mean, a lot of women, they just don't have that competitive spirit. They might love playing casually, but as far as playing tournament golf, they just don't want any part of it. I mean, it's in a lot of guys' natures just to be competitive. I mean, that's one of the things I love about it. I just love playing against the course and against my fellow competitors and having a great time. And women just, I don't know what they can do to get more women out there right now.
Yeah, and again, I keep going back to all of our history because we all kind of came into the game roughly around the same time. And I think about where we were 25 years ago, and our participation rate among women in disc golf was somewhere in that 6 to 7 to at most 10% participation. And here we have a much bigger overall population of disc golfers, but still the percentages remain the same, 7 to 10%. So I guess one of the questions you have to wonder 25 years later is, are we just never going to see that huge push? Are we ever going to see the participation or the percentages increase, substantially? And if so, maybe we just need to accept that, and not to discourage or disparage any women from playing, but maybe we just need to accept that and treat the 10% we have as best as we can.
Yeah, and I believe that that 10% is treated amazingly. I mean, all the events that I've seen, the women's fields are paid out way more as far as the percentage of the field goes than the men's field is. But I mean, as far as like you could look at women's golf, I mean, I'm pretty sure their purses are not as big as the men's purses. And they have almost I want to say the same size fields as the men. I'm pretty sure.
Well, and ultimately the women's sport is growing. It's just growing at the same rate as the men's side. It's not, the women aren't outpacing the men, which is really what we're asking, because we want to raise that percentage. And that's a difficult thing to do. And everybody wants growth, and focusing on one particular growth at this point might not, it may or may not be the best move. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, you can't make women go out there and play if they don't want to.
No, or and some of them have their own we'll say other obstacles or hurdles in terms of it's all too often you'll see in most of the family units, you'll find, well, my husband plays or my boyfriend plays, and if it's me or him that get to go to a tournament on a weekend, it's usually going to be him, and because she may be the primary caretaker or whatever. And I know I'm kind of dipping into some overscoping stereotypes, but those that usually turns out to be the case. So, well, all we can do is keep plugging forward. Now, on the women's side, when you're watching the golf and you're consuming it, do you make any draws to what we see on the men's side, or do you feel like it's just an entirely different game? Is it the personalities? Is it the couple of front runners? What is it about the women's side that particularly intrigues you when you are consuming it?
I mean, yeah, a lot of the players, they play a completely different style of golf. So to see how they might be attacking the course to benefit them the most, I mean, puts the tournament scene in a different light for me. I mean, I can see. I mean, it might change my mind on how I approach shots. I mean, just by adjusting something that I saw that they were doing. So,
anything down in your area that I don't want to say is of note, because again, you mentioned a lot of good golf, and we know that there is. We talked about meccas and areas if you want to go play plenty of golf. But when you're talking about playing in the woods of North Carolina, and you're a couple hours from Charlotte, right? You're 3.5, yeah. When you're talking about that area and you're trying to describe it to other golfers or people come to visit, what are some of the takeaways or some of the tips or insight that you give when you're trying to explain what it's like to be in your area and playing golf? As opposed to, say, playing, if someone's like, well, should I go to Charlotte area or should I go to Wisconsin? Like,
well,
pretty
I mean,
different.
I consider North Carolina golf and Wisconsin golf pretty similar. There's
Okay.
a lot of, I mean, Wisconsin's got a lot of great woods courses. It's got some nice elevation. Shoot, you go up to Sandy Point, you see North Carolina golf at its best right there.
You certainly do.
It's yeah. I mean, if they wanted to check out North Carolina courses, I mean, you got some of the top tier courses in the Charlotte area. But if you want to go, a lot of courses, you go to the Raleigh area, and there's 60 courses within an hour of Raleigh. Mm-hmm. And we have probably some of the best private courses in the entire world in North Carolina too. So there's some really nice private courses here. I think there's over 100 private courses in North Carolina.
I don't want to sound ignorant when I ask, but why is that? What's driving that particular either style or initiative in terms of private courses? Are we seeing people that just want the best spot in the world to retire and to live at, or are you seeing it as a business venture? What's driving that particular style?
I think it's might have a little bit of a business side to it, but I think it's just the sheer love of the game, and they want it at their home, and then they can bring other people to come and experience what they've created. And there's a whole homegrown tour series out here that's for adults only. I mean, I think you have to be 18 or 21 to be able to participate in the events. I mean, that's just what they want. They don't want kids around. They just want to have their own adult time for this entire tour, which is cool. That's one Saturday a month out for the entire year.
Real quick to touch on that, wouldn't it be kind of funny to be like, and I know they're a little older now, but be like, hey, Eagle, you can't come play in this tournament. You're not old enough. Or someone like Haley King, who's not eligible to go play because of her age right now. Some of our brightest upcoming stars not eligible to possibly go play in some of these, adult. It would be kind of funny. That'd be one way to rule out a Eagle McMahon. Sorry, Eagle.
He's no.
It's kind of funny. And that speaks volumes about where our sport is, knowing our next generation of golfers. I mean, it's just incredible how young, and watching Kyle Klein at the Next Gen Tour, who's now rated 1017 or 1020 or
Was
whatever.
Isaiah Esquivel,
Yeah,
out of Kansas.
I mean, it's ridiculous how, the talent pool and where they're getting started. Now, I'll follow that up by saying we're now at an age again where someone you could run into someone on the course and they'd be like, yeah, disc golf was taught at my school. I'm a product of Edge. Or I'm a product of You Play Disc Golf, or whatever the case might be. We will have a world champion come from a school district where they got introduced to it at school. How incredible is that?
Yeah, that's absolutely amazing. I mean, hats off to Jay and Des for doing so much for Edge. I mean, their teaching abilities is amazing. I mean, the things that they've done is I couldn't even imagine doing, because it's just I don't have that gift of gab. So it's just they can just put it all out there. They put it into words, and everybody understands what they're talking about, and they just take it and run with it.
Well, that kind of ties my next two thoughts, which were, you're talking about private course and land and where you may want to play, and then we're talking about, we'll say, life after super competitive golf. And Jay and Des, of course, still play, but we're seeing what they're doing with their professional career after competitive play. So I'll ask you, do you see yourself trying to own land and put a course on it? Do you see yourself playing competitively and on your mini tour or circuit in your area? What's kind of your 20-year plan from now in how you're involved with golf?
I'm just gonna keep playing, man.
Okay.
Ashley and I have our little almost 2-acre plot of land here, got our 3 dogs, and we're happy with what we got. And I'm just going to keep playing, man, as much as until my body tells me I can't. I'm going to keep playing. I have a couple of my own goals as far as my tournament play goes. So,
do I smell 1,000?
the 1,000 played is definitely a goal.
Okay. And
yeah, hopefully I can hit 300 wins in 2 years.
So, and to put that all in perspective for everyone, and I'll cheat a little and look at the stats. You mentioned it earlier. You have right now 669 PDGA events. That's about to be 670 by the end of the year. And you have 263 wins as of right now. So you're 37 shy of that 300 mark you just mentioned.
So at your pace, you're looking at another 8 years before you hit about 1,000 events.
Yeah.
Okay.
As long as I can stay healthy, that's the main part of it, is just staying healthy. I mean, when I broke my hand back in, what was it, 2015? Is that when I did the commentary with you at USDGC? It was 2015.
Sounds about right. Yeah, 14 or 15, somewhere in that neighborhood.
I missed 8 weeks. That was the longest hiatus I've had of disc golf in the 22, 23 years I've been playing.
Which, knock on wood, like you said earlier, incredible. I mean, that you've been that safe and healthy all these years. If that.
Yeah, because we're already seeing a lot of our top pros run into issues with their bodies, as far as whether it's injuries like Yuli, blowing out an ACL. We've got Ricky with his issue with Lyme disease. Paul, his ankle issue. You've been fairly fortunate up until recently, playing as long as you have, with as many events as you have, that it's it was only a hand thing, so to speak.
Yeah, broken hand. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's how did that happen?
At Masters Worlds in Charlotte, fell on a second shot at Nevin. Slipped, fell, broke my fall, but it didn't bother me until the Monday after the tournament.
Wow.
Well, and I think about one other lesser injury, coming off of a mountainside at Snowball, 2003 Pro Worlds. That's there was a hail/snowstorm.
I remember that.
It was hail.
Yeah, and you were finally there was a rescue team sent up in a pickup truck, And ultimately, you were riding in the back of the pickup truck, weren't you, when you were coming down the mountain with a bunch of others?
Me and Kerry Trotter were in the back.
Okay.
Yeah, we were the last two off.
So trying to get to that 1,000 mark and 300 wins, where are you right now in terms of overall wins compared to every other player in our sport? Are you
Elaine's got me by like 15 or 16.
okay?
Damn her!
That ageless wonder, Elaine.
She's been playing 20 years longer than I have.
Excuses, Schwabby, excuses. That's what I'm hearing.
Yeah, exactly.
I want to say Barry's like 11 or 12 behind me.
Okay.
Um,
Mike Mosier, where's he sit?
Moser's number 2 as far as tournaments played. He just went over 600.
Okay.
Alan Beaver's 3rd. He's right around 600.
Yeah, Alan Beaver, who won this past weekend
As well.
Yeah,
he didn't play against anybody though.
Correct. He played in Masters 60 and above.
Yep. I want to say I can't remember who was the wins as far as who was next. I know it's hard to find them all because you got to think about who's really played long, who's had a really strong win career. Who's absolutely just crushing it is Chris Dickerson.
Yeah,
I mean, for as few tournaments as he's played, and he's on up there real quick.
Well, yeah, and we'll talk about him a little bit after we let you go, but you're exactly right. When you look at his percentage, I remember the day I just kind of randomly clicked on him, and I was like, holy cow, he's exactly at that halfway point of his 50% win ratio, and now he's exceeded that, and watching what he's doing, and now we've talked about how he hasn't played as many of the biggest events like you see a Paul and a Ricky. He, of course, still goes to some of them, but he's had a little bit more of a regional approach. And economically, it's working out just fine for him. It makes sense.
He's very frugal as far as the tournaments he travels to, because if it's not going to be good as far as how much he's got to spend versus how much he could possibly make, he's not going to make that trip, which I don't blame him. I mean, that's smart. I mean, he's had a phenomenal year this year. I think he's made around like 33 grand this year. I mean, that's pretty good. I mean, that's like almost double my best year. I think 19,000 might have been my best year.
Yeah, and
I mean, our purses weren't nearly as big as they are now.
Yeah, I'm looking at another gentleman who's on a tear right now, who has that in his eyes. Emerson Keith. The past 3 years. Well, it was 3 years ago, 2017. He played 73 tournaments in 1 year. And then 2018, he dropped down to 58 only. And then this past year, he had a kid, so he slowed down even more. It's only been 50. So he is on pace to kind of make those type of moves that you are doing, averaging, between, around 40 events a year. It's fun to watch.
He might have played a lot of tournaments, which I mean, it's absolutely amazing the amount of tournaments he actually put in. But the rounds played around his rating are nowhere near when I did 61 events.
Yeah, and
I had 172 rounds on my rating. I think the most he's had was maybe 145.
Well, and then I'll follow that up by saying, again, back in your day, especially in certain parts of the country, and this was very regional, and Wisconsin finally, I'll say, shifted their focus, but a lot of tournaments, and I still think it's kind of crazy, you would play in a B tier, you may win a B tier, but you played 4 rounds to do that. You played 2 on Saturday and 2 on Sunday, and it wasn't until the last 10 or 15 years when we saw, okay, well, maybe there'd be a B tier on Saturday that's 2 rounds, and then you could travel to the other side of town or a couple hours and play in another one that was a single day. But back in the day, a lot of tournaments would consume your whole weekend. You couldn't get 2 in a weekend, for instance. And you were kind of part of that down in that area even as well, correct? North Carolina, that was pretty.
Yeah. When I did the 61 back in 2013, I mean, I played 50 out of 52 weekends, and I drove like 26,000 miles that year, and that was all regional. So I mean, I was putting in. I think I played like maybe like 15 one day events.
Okay.
So I mean, I mean, I was still playing a lot of 2-dayers. So it's
I
I
was
won 32 of them too, out of the 61.
I was just sent a list, and this is a little dated. It looks like it's about a year old. Schwebi, it has you here at 633. Clearly, you are now at in the 660s. But Felberg was at 578. Barry at 550 events. Jay Redding at 514. Elaine at 508. Elaine's probably added another 20 at least since then. Mike Mosier at 580. Brad Schick 557. Alan Beaver here is at 590. Chris Heisel 557. Scott Innes 571. Rico is at 484 and Climo's at 484 and Rico was at 497. Obviously Rico has pushed past that 500 now, but that's quite a list.
Yeah, pretty incredible to think about all of those events played. And then many of those players, maybe not yourself, but some of those players, there's events that just unfortunately may never hit the PDGA a database, in the sense that, an event that happened in early 1990 very well never got fully reported or converted digitally, to making it onto a list. Hopefully that number has shortened, as I think they're getting caught up, but there's a few events that probably got lost in the shuffle at one time or another.
Yeah, hats off to the folks at the PDGA for doing all that number crunching on all that old paper data. Oh my God.
Yeah.
That's just amazing.
Yeah, that's a shout out to Tom McManus who sent that to me.
All right. Thank you, Tom McManus, old PDGA 1276. That's old school.
Yes.
All right, Schwebi, is there, we hear a lot of sponsor news, a lot of talk, people shifting, people moving around. You've been around and had a lot of support throughout the years. I'm not sure if you're still with Carolina Bags or not.
Actually, I mean, I get my go-kart and I got a Carolina bag on my go-kart from Gotta Go, Gotta Throw.
Okay, very nice.
Yep.
Any big sponsorship news or announcements?
No, I just got my sponsorship agreement on the email a couple days ago.
Okay.
Nothing major, man. Just another year where I don't have to sign anything. I'm low.
Funny how you say that. And again, just to use your specific words, you don't have to sign anything. You have a long-standing relationship, of course, with Innova.
Since 2002.
Would you be offended if they asked you to sign something, or would they be offended if you asked them to sign something?
No, I'd read it and see what it says. If I wasn't happy with it, then I wouldn't sign it. But I mean, I don't see how anything that they could try and get off of me would not be doable.
Okay.
I mean, I've been nothing but great for them, I think, and they've been great for me.
Anything, we'll say, out of the ordinary plan for 2020? I mean, I know you just talked about events and kind of what you like to do for touring and scheduling, but is there anything that's maybe not on our radar that you've got in the works?
No, I'm just doing my thing, man. That's all I ever try to do. But if something else comes along, then so be it. But I'll just be doing what I do, and I'll be watching y'all, and it's going to be fun.
All right. Where's your interest level on international travel or play?
I don't ever plan on going any place where I don't speak that language.
Okay. Well, good. I will say the good news is almost everywhere you go, we're spoiled. We might be not nearly as smart as most other countries, but everywhere I've gone, somebody's understood me. So you have that going for you.
I mean, it would be cool, but the flight to Alaska is long enough, and I just couldn't imagine going overseas like that. That would drive me bonkers.
Yeah, and you'd probably have to spring for the extra leg room.
Yes.
Get the extended
Both of
leg.
us. Both of us.
I do for the Alaska trip too.
Makes sense. All right, Schwebby, is there anything you want to say before we let you go here tonight?
No, thanks y'all. Thanks to Innova Champion Disc for making the best plastic on the planet.
All right, buddy. Well, we appreciate it. We always appreciate your support. I see you, chime in, whether it's during a live broadcast or a podcast or whatever we're doing. We've obviously go way back with you, and we've known and loved you for so many years, and we really appreciate it.
Yeah, 98.
98 AM Worlds, baby.
98 AM Worlds, way back in those days. There's a story buried there somewhere.
Someone will dig it up.
About Schwebby as part of my official, I think he was part of my official bodyguard crew.
Brian Bayman knows it all.
Yeah. Another blast from the past. All right.
Never trust a guy with a belly button ring.
On that note. All right, Schwebby, we love you, buddy. Take care, and we'll be excited to watch you get to that 1,000 and the 300 mark. All right, pal. Have a good night.
You too.
See ya.
Good night, pal.
All right, and Brian Schweberger. He came up to Wisconsin in 1998, played in AM Worlds, and at that time, AM Worlds was held, like I said, just in Wisconsin, but really, literally down the road from where Johnny V and I live. There were a couple of courses that were in play that are still out there and in play today: Plowman Park, Tallulah Park, Ohauser Park, all part of the.
Imagine how those would get shredded these days.
Oh my gosh!
You're talking. Those courses, if you didn't shoot a 14 under at a world championship, you would be losing strokes probably.
Yeah, with the how incredible the players are, and like you just said, shred is really the best word for it. And those courses again were they weren't the toughest at that time, but they were still right on par, so to speak, with where they should have been.
Yep.
And I know I mentioned it earlier, but Stingrays, Vipers, Whippets, Cyclones. Cyclone came out around 94, 95 time frame. Cyclone was one of the fastest flying discs that was out there. XLs were in the mix of coming out right around that time. It was
MRVs, MRX, those are the mid-ranges you were looking at.
And think today, it's so funny to think that the XL was setting world distance records thanks to people like Chris Voigt and Scott Stokely and so on and so forth. That was setting world distance records, a Discraft XL and the X Clone, as he mentioned, and what those are today. They're
roller discs.
Not only that, but some people talk about how those are fairways, or not even considered, by some as distance drivers compared to what we're out there using today. It's just truly incredible.
I'm going to throw this out there. Maybe Foundation is listening, maybe not. I want to see a recorded round of Paul Macbeth with the classic Discraft discs. Give him an X-Clone,
a Marauder,
a Cyclone, maybe a Marauder.
a Hawk would be a good one. That's
Hawk.
too good of a disc.
A Hawk is a classic disc.
Typhoon. He needs a Typhoon.
I've maybe got one back there somewhere, and
I would love to see him throw a Typhoon.
I would love to see those discs. Maybe if he wants to really step up, an X2.
I've got a box of those.
I'm sure you do. I can name most discs from anywhere from 1999 to 2008, and you'd be like, I got a box of those. So I would love to see a round like that. Give him an MRX, an MRV, a Wasp. I mean, he already a Wasp is even.
A wasp.
He already bags a Wasp, but those are even.
Dude, that's so new school.
I know even the Wasp is new school. I think of the Wasp as like the predecessor to the Zone for me. I'm like, they were both like kind of overstable. And the Wasp are discs that these guys would flip now.
He needs a Deuce. He needs a Marauder.
Even those
an Eclipse, a Shadow,
an Eclipse.
I'll break this down
Tracer?
for you guys. Tracers,
the Tracer,
Eclipse, and the Tracer and the Eclipse. Even to this day, I think if you handed both of them to me, I'm not sure I could tell the difference. They were so very similar.
It'd be tough,
even at the time. But a Tracer was one of the first ever drivers I had ever.
Yep.
And I still have it.
I've my
blue.
one of my original Tracers. Mine's orange.
Those are some of the really old school. Yeah, I'd love to see those. All right, King Rat. It's been nice seeing and hearing from you here on the message board. You just got the band hammer. I don't know what kind of super kind of special you are, but we'll let you go here. Thanks for joining us. Love to ban you. And Brian's right on the cusp of it. So love this chat playing along with us here tonight. So again, thank you to Brian Schweberger. It is, I may have referenced it a number of times. I apologize. It is great to catch up with someone like him. His PDGA number is 12989, I believe.
It is.
Yeah, 12989. I'm 10738. Johnny's 14,000. So he was definitely right in the thick of things, as that, like he said, those early touring players. He was one of those guys on the tour with that crew. It was great to see.
Those years, and I know Stokely is really the father of touring, whether
or Dan Ginley.
Ginley did it, but I think Stokely really brought it public. I mean, for what it's worth. But that crew that we were talking about, that was really the first crew, the first group that toured. We had individual guys go out, but really to have that group, and it was a big deal when they came to your town.
Mm-hmm.
Like, everyone was like, "Oh, the touring guys, the Winnie crew is coming to town." The
Flying Eye crew.
Flying Eye crew, yes. Jay and Des were coming into town, and that was a really big deal for events. It's like, it would be like Paul Macbeth coming to your local A tier or B tier that you have now. That's what these guys did, because these were guys you really only saw in the magazines back then. We didn't have, obviously, access to all the content. YouTubes, all the content. At some point, though, I just feel like we're talking like we're old. So,
that
we
is
are,
true.
But
yes, we definitely are. I'm going to check in with Dana and see if he is going to be still possibly with us. I know he had a really busy night tonight. It worked out well that we were going to have Schwebby joining us from the East Coast first, of course, a little bit later for him. If Dana is available, he may check in with us. Otherwise, I understand if, as he said earlier, we may have lost our window of having him here tonight. But we do have to get caught up with him soon, knowing that it's been a while since we checked in with him. All right, so while we do this and see if we can catch up with him, I want to thank again Tom McManus for giving us a little bit of that recon he had on some of those stats and numbers for us, but also just a couple of events going on this last weekend. I can elaborate on one of them. Johnny, I'm not sure if you've got the other one pulled up, one or two events that we could talk about. Well, we could have talked to Schwebby a little bit more in depth, but he did win this last weekend.
Yes, he did. We saw him at the Innova Presents, the 2019 Tupelo Bay Open.
2019.
The 2019. We're almost done with 2019, and we're going to move to 2020.
I'd like to be at 2020.
2020. The open field. Jeremy Colling wins this event. I believe he won this last year as well, if I recall from an Instagram post that he had made. I'm going to go back and look at that now, just because I'm not sure.
We'll give him credit for it.
All right.
Good job, Big Jeremy.
Maybe he did, maybe he didn't. Either way, congratulations, Jeremy Colling, on winning this. He had a really nice, heartfelt 1-year anniversary to his lady friend on Instagram, Jules. So he beats Austin Turner by 12 strokes. Oh. Jeremy had a really great set of rounds, shooting a 1057, 1049, and a 1041, all of which are above his rating. Then we followed that up with third place Nathan Queen, fourth place Mitch Dickens, fifth place tied Charlie Bearhorst and Henry Childress. So congratulations to the top 5. Open women, Rebecca Cox, she won that one by shooting an 878, a 908, and a 913. Those are well below her rating, but still managed to take that one down for $120. And the ageless wonder, or it doesn't sound like he's so ageless the way he's talking about all of his injuries, Brian Schweberger shooting 23 under par, besting Kevin Gleason by 4 strokes and winning $235, 992, 1006, and wraps it up with 1,047 rated round.
Dang.
And as we said, Alan Beaver ProMaster 60 plus. Didn't have any competition, but still managed a 914, 938, and a 951 for $60.
Okay, well, we can move over, as I mentioned a little bit earlier, and apparently I have a drinkable bingo word of consume, so I'll say I consumed an event this weekend. No, I was in at the South Florida Open, presented by Latitude 64, and over the last few years, I think it's been 3 or 4 now, we've really seen a 2-person race at this event, and that's been between Chris Dickerson and Calvin Heimberg. Well, just before the event this weekend, it sounds as if Calvin wasn't feeling it. His back he just said he wasn't feeling it, is really the best way to put it. And unfortunately, Calvin ultimately withdrew from the event. And I don't want to say it made it easy for Chris, because Chris started out really hot, and then he kind of cooled down as things went on. But Chris did come away ultimately with the win, so that rivalry will get postponed for a year at least at this event. Coming in second, a tie for second, we had Thomas Gilbert and Cole Weirheim. And then also rounding out the top 4 is Benjamin Steeman. So a lot of fun.
Thomas Gilbert, who I once accidentally mistaked for
Calvin
Heimberg.
100% legitimately honest mistake that I could see all the time.
And it was only because it was at GBO. He kind of had his side turned to me, and I was speaking with Sexton and Coling, getting some signatures on some of the Disc Golf Pro Tour cards, and he was kind of turned sideways, and I was like, "Oh, hey man, don't worry, I'll get your signature when your card comes out." And it turned to me, and I was like, "Oh, you're not who I thought you were." And I turned around, and I think I've told the story before, and like 6 chairs away was Calvin. I was like, "Oh, that's the guy I was thinking you were." So
again, understandable. Similar physique, similar hair. Yeah, that's a fair mistake. I was there for that. That was pretty funny. Thomas had also reached out to me. We're going to wait on him getting a microphone, and once he does, I think he's going to kind of take the lead with me in commentary for the event, which will be great.
That's great, because I haven't heard him do any commentary so far yet. So that's another voice that we can get out into the YouTubes to listen to, see how someone like him handles commentary.
I think he's going to be great. I'm really excited. Or I'll say if he ends up lining up someone else to assist him, I do not need to be part of it, but usually that helps facilitate and get things moving a little quicker if it's me and then one other person. But if he can work with someone else, I'll also be up for that as well. So thank you very much, Thomas. Kobe Geis and Cole, I know, have kind of taken that role over the last few years, but Kobe has taken on a new job and said things would be a little bit more difficult. Anyway, back to the tournament. Really sidetracked there. I also had the pleasure of first round. We filmed the FPO division just like we did last year during the first round. That was at Snyder Park. I believe that's called Jetstream Disc Golf Course at Snyder Park. And this year it was Ellen Widboom, Lindsay Fish, and Esther Schultz were all competing. There was 3 pro women as opposed to the 5 we had last year. And it was a really, really good battle. And when it was all said and done, Ellen pulled away in the latter half of the tournament to take home another victory. So congrats to her. Ellen also had confirmed with me that she'd be interested in doing commentary for that round. So
Ellen is good at commentary.
She's
Ellen's
great.
very well-spoken. I do really enjoy her. I think she is one of those personalities that could do well live broadcasting as well.
For sure. And whether it's Lindsay or Esther or whoever, again, I would love to have them just get it all knocked out. It's, in fact, the video is all loaded up and ready for her and whomever else once she's able to sit down and give it the time to do the commentary. So it's already edited in that sense, except for the commentary, which is awesome. So I got a big jump start on getting the editing done from the weekend. And then we'll round out on the Masters, also on the pro side. J-Ray, I think he said a late round putt during the final round just didn't stick, and therefore he ended up losing by a stroke to Baxter Frost. Now, to be fair, he had 71 other holes to make up a stroke or two, but he said he had a great battle, and I think he even got an ace during round 2. So J Ray comes up runner-up to Baxter Frost. Congratulations to Baxter. Great seeing some other friendly faces out there in Bob Kulchuk and Jason Wilder. I got a chance to catch up with them. Roger Reyes took it down in the Pro Masters 50 and older. So congratulations to all of those guys on the pro side, men and women.
Out on our board, Mr. Simon Lazat is out here asking for ideas.
Is he trolling us
Or
again?
vlogs. He's slightly trolling us. No, if for those of you
It's
that
your own vlog.
don't know, he does have a vlog, Terry.
Dang it.
And in fact, over the
Podcast.
past week, we've seen really 2 videos come from Simon. One was the exclusive and elusive bag switch video where
my
him and
gosh.
Paul actually switched bags and played with each other's discs. So Paul got a chance to play with Discmania discs, which he is relatively familiar with as being a formerly Innova sponsor player. But Simon went ahead and played with Discraft discs for the first time.
Oh my God, my
ever.
mind was melted.
It was both players said, if you listen to Simon in the vlog, both players said that they got permission from their sponsors, and it was an enjoyable video. It's fun to see. It's fun to see the players a little bit more open and free with throwing other plastic, which isn't seen a lot. So please go out and check out that video. The other thing that I haven't actually had a chance to consume, Terry, haven't consumed yet, is the Simon and Paul Macbeth baking cookies video, which apparently he recently posted.
It was a bake-off.
Was it a bake-off?
I don't know.
I don't know. But I'm going to take a look at that probably in the next day or two. So congratulations to Simon on putting out some really good...
They're like the new power couple of 2019. It's truly adorable. Right, Simon?
Do they walk around the mall with their hands in their back, each other's back pockets?
Absolutely.
Okay. I just have to make sure. Do people still do that? Do kids still do that?
I would assume so. They're probably both wearing jean jackets that were airbrushed at the kiosk down near the food court. You know, Sbarro. Everybody has to stop at Sbarro after getting some free samples from the Chinese wok. I mean, yeah, they definitely are enjoying their mall time together. It's absolutely adorable.
And we saw that Birdie, the game from the
Boda Brothers,
Steve and Todd Dodge, hit full fundage. They hit the $40,000 mark. So congratulations to them. We are going to see a Smashbox card. I know that. I believe we know Paul Macbeth is in it. I think I saw Simon Lazat will be making a debut in the game. So everybody need not worry. The Kickstarter is fully funded. You should receive your boxes sometime. I believe you said in March, or
well, I think
it
that's
depends.
Gonna,
it depends on the stretch goal about whether he can get them out in March, or I think there was an $80,000 stretch goal to get them out. I don't know if it was sooner than March, or if March was the sooner one, and maybe it's a little bit later than that. But congratulations to Steve Dodge and the Boda Brothers for getting that funded. I'm looking forward to getting ours. I have one. Terry has one. Smashbox itself purchased one, so I have a feeling that there might be a future giveaway in one from us.
That sounds all too generous of us.
Well, we are
I
generous.
don't think we should do that.
Well, we'll see.
Well, they are currently at $59,237. So like you said, they met it. Full fundage. That's a term I don't know if I like repeating or not, but full fundage for that.
I made it up. I don't know if it's really a word.
So we'll call it $60,000 that they're at. And like you said, if they get to the $80,000 stretch goal, then I believe it does get made not only in the U.S., but also then comes out a little bit sooner, a few weeks sooner. I was going to look for that exact date, and now there's just way too much on this freaking Kickstarter site. I can't. I don't know. I also posted in the comment section just a moment ago, if you would still like to support it, please do. Of course, they could use it. I posted the link that brings you to the Kickstarter directly from the link of ours, and it's just a little tracking mechanism. We don't get anything for it, but it gives you the link in the comments.
Correct. We receive no extra fundage for that.
No,
but go.
I want to get fully funded though.
You want to get? Yes, I would love to get fully funded. So please go take a look. Watch Paul and Simon play the game, and then click on our link. Not any links that they provide, but our link, and go support Birdie.
Yes. Also, I do want to wrap up the South Florida. Yuha, who is the assistant tournament director for Tuni, was also here. He consumed Florida for 2 weeks. Perfect. He was here, and he was helping out with the tournament, but then also took his first stab at catch cam, which, as we all know, is not necessarily easy to do, but he did work catch cam for me, so big shout-out to Yuha. I really appreciate all the help, even if it does create a bunch more work for me to edit a second camera I wasn't planning on, but I do really appreciate it, and the video will certainly appreciate it. It's going to be that much better having that extra camera. So, and I know he was heading back to Finland and getting things ready for their busy season, but it was great to see him here in the U.S. And a huge shout out to Pat Duncan for putting on the event again, trying to get, having this opportunity of an A tier so late in the year in what plenty would call a destination or a vacation destination area there in South Florida. And, having 3 courses, 4 rounds is no small task. So I appreciate it and appreciate everyone that I saw and talked to while I was down there this last weekend. So thank you to all of them. And look for that in the next few days to hopefully start getting released once we can get that commentary track laid down. Simon's still on the board, hustling people, saying he gave me the sweetest shout out in the cookie video. He can't believe I haven't seen it yet. Contrary to what you may think, I'm not just all about cookies here, Simon. Even if my stomach may lead you to think otherwise, but I will go consume. I can't wait to see the adorable cook-off that you and bake-off that you and Paul had. Now we have Hannah on the board as well, also getting in on it. Is there anything else in, we'll say, PDGA news, Pro Tour news, National Tour news, PDGA tech standards, any other major news that you saw across your desk, Johnny?
I don't have a desk. You don't pay for that.
Oh, this is my table.
This is literally your table.
And it's been here all these years.
For 5 years it's been here.
This is my table.
This particular fold-out table. The PDGA is doing a retrospective every couple days called Decade on Display. They've had 3 of them in the past week. The Marco Polo program, the 2014 World's Playoff Showdown, and Jenkins comes back for a 4th world title. So go out and consume that on the PDGA site. It's going to become a meme at some point if we just keep saying consume.
I mean, it plays into even how the cleverness of it, of me being overweight and then saying the word consume. It's just setting it up for you guys.
We're both overweight, so I can't say anything. The PDGA made 2 announcements this week. One was the 2020 PDGA Women's Global Event is seeking supporters, and that the PDGA Board of Directors establishes a CBD policy. So I believe that means I can rub CBD lotion on you.
Yes.
I think that's literally...
Only if it's on live coverage, though.
No, please go out, check out this.
Only if you have a current PDGA card. Just like they've issued
I got
medicinal PDGA cards so that Johnny V can... No,
I come with CBD lotion. That's all I have. I got a nice card from the PDGA today, a Christmas card.
I didn't.
They don't love you.
That's true.
Huh. Because I've been so friendly with the PDGA over the past 2 months.
Huh.
Anyway, I'm sure it's in the mail. Check it out. But ultimately, the policy reads as follows. Cannabis oil, CBD, is a compound derived from hemp or cannabis plant. Products containing CBD are becoming increasingly available to the general population in the United States and other countries. Use of CBD products containing less than 0.3 THC is permissible by competitors during PDGA-sanctioned tournaments. However, CBD products that are inhaled, for example, vapes, vape pens, smoking flower, really it's called smoking flower? I never heard that, must follow the same restrictions as per PDGA policies, rules, and competition guidelines on tobacco use. In addition, the use of CBD products at PDGA-sanctioned events must comply with all federal, state, or local laws and regulations of their respective countries. Basically, it's cool to use CBD products based on the 0.3 THC because there's no way that they're going to be able to find out otherwise. I think that is ultimately, you might as well say it's okay because you're not going to be able to regulate it. to be honest.
Mm.
I think it would be more of a hassle to try to regulate it than it wouldn't be. Like the whole 0.3% THC, I'm guessing that is coming from some legal standard somewhere. But good for the PDGA. It's another small baby step towards what appears to be happening nationwide with our country, and I have no issues with this at all. I've never used a CBD product, but ultimately it is.
You just rub it on people.
Yeah, I mean, I wear gloves and I sneak up on people, so I don't know how
That's
works.
better than me sneaking up on people without gloves. Maybe not.
If the glove doesn't fit, you must acquit.
Yes.
I think that's how it goes.
Well, which does make me sidetrack briefly. I posted one of my favorite pictures from being at the Drava Forester last night on my Facebook, and I just happened to be wearing, it was, of course, pink, black, and sparkle night at the Drava Forester, and I just so happened to still have some white gloves from a previous costume party a few nights earlier, and I had stated that I think white gloves to be worn at every international disc golf tournament I travel to. I don't think anyone would think that's off-putting or weird whatsoever if I'm just always wearing white gloves regardless of the temperature. I think that might be maybe a new standard for me, so we'll see how that works out. Well, I don't know if we can call a regular show or not. I think we can because we don't have too much. We can talk about some other random stuff in the after show. Of course, we're going to have a giveaway. I'll spoil it a little bit if you didn't see yet my Instagram TV post that I put out there.
Do we have the meats?
I think we talked about it last week a little bit, maybe.
I don't know if we did.
Maybe we didn't. Excuse me. Arby's, who is not affiliated with, nor do they sponsor this program yet. Arby's had recently made a post or an announcement saying that they have more of the discs. We saw a number of Arby's discs were given away. I'm not sure how they were giving them away or what the reasoning or logic was for how people acquired them, but they were. Well, then they went out there a few days ago and had made a post saying that they were available in their store. And so I had gone out, and the second I saw it, I was like, oh, I got to go out there. I'm a little bit of a collector/hoarder. And so I went out and I grabbed, they only had white or red discs. And I think they had a couple different manufacturers. I grabbed the very first ones I saw. I had grabbed the Innova Firebirds. I know they had Prodigy drivers. I also know they had Discraft drivers. I think Raptors possibly. But so they had what I would consider, I don't know if these are going to be something you're going to see on the norm or regularly. Maybe you will. But I thought it was something cool. Again, I say this about all of the major or large-scale corporations and companies. You can love or hate Arby's. I don't really care. I think it's cool that a major corporation or entity has some involvement with disc golf. That's the takeaway. Just like you can love or not Keen or Adidas or any other, again, major corporation. We talked about Ford being involved, at least internationally, at some of the events over in Finland. Hugo Boss, we've seen, some of these name brands, whether you personally consume them or like them or not is kind of a side note. Just the fact that we have some bigger entities looking at our sport and in any way taking us serious, I think that is a really big step in the right direction. And as Schwebi alluded to earlier, maybe or maybe not, we'll see some major contract or major endorsements or sponsorships come into disc golf in our lifetime. I'm not sure. We'll see. But so those are available. I don't know if they're still available. Good luck. If they're not, I know I've got mine. They'll get stashed in the vault because I do think it's pretty cool. Well, we good?
I believe we're good.
All right, I will close it out officially. So we'd like to thank you guys for joining us here tonight. Sorry, Dynamite. We ran out of time.
We'll get you next week, Dynamite.
Get you next week, Dynamite.
No. Meet us here next week.
9 o'clock next Tuesday night. Be there, Dana. We'll be here as well. But, of course, we want to thank Brian Schweberger, who is our main guest here tonight. We appreciate him joining us, getting caught up with him. Just one of the most outstanding gentlemen in all of disc golf and beyond. We really appreciate it, Brian. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you guys in the after show. We'll talk a little bit about the fire topic that I posted a little earlier today that stirred up a little conversation, and I'm sure we'll have some other disc golf chatter above and beyond. Maybe we'll even get Simon Lizotte. Yeah, we're calling you out, buddy. Maybe we'll get Simon Lizotte to join us in the after show. He's always filled with good information, just like last time. For Johnny V, Terry Miller, the disc golf guy, that's been podcast 278. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you in the after show. You step inside the Smashbox.
Thank you to our $2 and above patrons. Your name is listed below in the credits. If you are interested in being listed as a producer in the SmashBoxxTV credits and supporting this and other fine podcasts, please visit patreon.com/SmashBoxxTV.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the SmashBoxxTV podcast 278
After show.
I think when we come back in a couple weeks, this will take a little bit of brain power.
Oh, geez, that's
We
pushing.
should close out the. Oh no, we're not really going to close out. Well, we need to have one more here in 2019 before we close out the year, depending on what day that's going to be. We'll have you bring us into the after show. We'll just really switch things up. It'll be crazy. Let's plan
2020
that.
squad goals.
Exactly.
Hashtag.
Okay, boomer.
See, I mean, we're not boomers. We're Gen Xers.
I know.
We're the-
but I mean,
we're
if
the-
you're not saying it, it's just
That's
you're not
true.
cool.
We're the slacker generation.
Yeah, sure.
So
All right, guys. Well, we are here. It is the after show. I'd like to say anything goes,
anything does go
except for you being a
Uh,
real prick
on
the message board, on the chat board, on YouTube. If you're doing it on Facebook, you're going to get away with it until I maybe peruse that tomorrow. Maybe I won't. But if you're a real jerk on the YouTube chat board, that's probably where you're not going to fully get away with it.
There's
because we get the band hammers out.
only so much ribbing that can happen before it becomes not fun anymore.
Well, or just people think they're really funny,
Yeah.
and they never were in the first
Well,
place.
no, I'm not saying that people are funny in general. I'm just saying like you can make a
Oh.
joke at our expense,
Oh, of course.
and that is, I'm okay with that a little bit. It just, you have to know where the line is, and that's part of it. I was listening to a wonderful podcast, and they were talking about this too. They're relatively well-known people. You and I have met them.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was, and they were talking about how close their relationship is in their podcast. They go back and forth, and as they say, you know, they expose themselves on the internet. As far as that doesn't sound good, but as far as they are very open to a lot of talk about their personal lives and things like that. And he said somebody came up to him and said, "Oh, hey, you're so and so. You're almost famous." And he took it as a the way it was said, it came across as not what he wanted to hear at that particular minute. Like the fact that you are meeting someone for the first time and right away jabbing at them. Like it just, he said, he's like, "Okay, cool." I just walked away. And I think that I'm okay with a little bit of ribbing on the board between myself, Terry, whomever, but you have to know where the line is. And at some point,
And your line may not agree with our line, and that's why
Correct.
we have a band
and that's why
hammer.
we have the hammer, and that's why a lot of people on here have the hammer, because their lines might even be different than ours. So I just think it's funny that what some people feel like they can or should be able to say or can get away with on the chat board, or maybe they were just looking to get banned. I think that is possible.
Yeah, that's a little bit of part of that as well. And again, we're all ready to play along and have some fun here, and we're not above by any means getting called out and or maybe even poked at a little bit. Totally good with that, but it doesn't mean we have to put up with that. It was funny that just last night, there was no intended segue here, but just last night, I was talking to my 11-year-old, and now I'm trying to remember the exact context.
Congratulations
of it.
on being home for her.
Yep. There was some context to her and my 8-year-old in saying something about freedom. Somehow the term freedom of speech was thrown out or used. I don't know if it was in the background on television or something. And then I looked them straight in the face and I said, there's absolutely a freedom of speech, and I'm a big firm believer in it. I think it's great, but just know there's consequences to that freedom of speech. You can say whatever you want. Just know that doesn't mean there's not going to be anything that comes as a repercussion of that. And it was great to have, like, because they understand. I mean, they're at that age where they're learning about things like the Constitution and civics and all of that kind of stuff, but also to have that follow-up point, because I'll be the first to admit, that's probably one of my biggest pet peeves is everyone that wants to run and hide behind the freedom of speech phrase, which, again, I love the concept, but just you have to understand there's a consequence to what you say.
I hope we all know. I hope we all passed 9th grade civics, and we know that freedom of speech is directly referring to the government. You can't be locked up for something. It has nothing to do with our chat board, with Facebook, with any sort of YouTube comment.
It's a free country, man.
You can say whatever you want, and I can respond in any way I want. It's my freedom to block or ban you. So, yeah, that's whatever. I don't know. But as I was, side note, speaking of talking to 10 and 11-year-olds, 2 nights ago, we watched the National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation as a family with my 10-year-old son, and I don't know if I've seen him laugh quite as hard at almost any other movie than he did with this one. And it's one of those movies that just, I like to watch it every year. I hate watching it when it comes on TV because it's always
censored.
It's always neutered, and you don't get the full rant that Clark goes on, and you don't see the pool scene, which honestly was a little bit awkward because there's a little bit of side boob in that scene from whomever, I forget the model that portrayed that particular part, but sitting there with my 10-year-old, and I'm like, I don't know if he's ever seen anything like this before, but him just belly laughing at some of the situations with the cat getting absolutely fried underneath of the chair, and Cousin Eddie emptying out the RV into the sewer, and it gives me a little bit of faith that those type of movies can continue to hold up.
Yeah, now you mentioning it makes me really want to go out and watch it again myself. I'll admit it's been a couple years for me. I'd love to know in the chat board, maybe it's that one, maybe it's others. I'm sure everybody has one. What is that repeatable holiday Christmas movie?
A lot of people are going to say Elf.
Okay.
Because that's the other one. We watched Sunday, it was Lampoon's. Saturday, we watched Elf, which I had seen before, but my family hadn't. I actually surprisingly, I saw it in the theater with some nephews, cousins of mine, and they hadn't seen it. And they both enjoyed it. My wife and my son both enjoyed it quite a bit. But I think Lampoon's went over much better with my son than Elf did.
And it, as expected, I figured Home Alone would be a very quick one that would get mentioned, and it did. I think that was one of the first ones that
I think
Christmas
we watched,
Story.
Yeah, we watched that last year.
Muppet Christmas Carol.
I actually did on Netflix. There's a series called The Movies That Made Us, and it's all behind the scenes on a bunch of movies from the 80s and 90s. And the one that I've watched was the Home Alone one, where they talk about how the movie almost wasn't made because they were pushing over budget. It was like a $10 million budget, and they hit like $14 million, which in today's numbers doesn't sound like a lot for a movie, but that's a 40% or whatever increase in budget. And at one point, I'll spoil it for you, they shut the entire thing down only for the next day to have it come back up under an entirely different company.
Wow.
That it was originally a Warner Brothers movie that then went over to like Fox or something. And they had this all planned. It was a big thing, but ultimately, a phenomenal John Hughes movie, which as National Lampoon's was as well. So.
All right. Charlie Brown, understandably, coming in on that Batman Returns.
Great Christmas movie right there. Well,
as some of them are continuing to, I have to work to get down the chimney. You're exactly right. Speaking of which, I would like to get my fireplace cleaned. It has not been cleaned. I don't use it nearly as often as I would like to. It was something my mother always was a big fan of, tradition I'd like to keep going, but I haven't had my chimney cleaned in many, many years. I also haven't used it much.
I was going to say you probably haven't used it too
but
much.
It's probably due. It's been 10 years that I've lived there, and we've never had it cleaned, and I've only used it a handful of times, but I was just thinking, those are one of those, talk about a sidetrack, but those are one of those things that's so unsatisfying that you have to do is pay to have your chimney cleaned. It's like, it's obviously a cost of being a homeowner. It's just
you have a natural burning?
No, it's a
gas?
No. I'm sorry. It's a wood.
It's a wood, like
fireplace,
natural wood.
Okay.
I wasn't thinking natural gas, but natural burning as opposed to
Yes.
natural gas, I guess. Yeah, that's a little confusing. So, okay.
Yeah,
so,
but how unsatisfying, just in general. It's kind of like getting maintenance done on your car. It's like, awesome. I just dropped $600 and I got brakes and tires. It's like there's nothing fun or sexy or appealing or exciting usually about those types of things. I guess those are all under the adulting category, but definitely just not fun and something you should have done. I was thinking, and I don't know if we have any, maybe we have some realtors from the Milwaukee area listening in tonight. I was thinking about my storage facility and the disc golf equipment. I have some discs out there, but I also have a lot of disc golf equipment, some memorabilia, some stuff that's maybe somewhat historic. I wish I owned, rather than renting, I wish I owned a place to put my disc golf stuff that wasn't part of renting my storage facility. And then I thought, where would I put it? And could I buy a plot of land to just build a shed to put all my stuff in it?
I mean, you could. I don't know where in the Milwaukee area you're going to find a plot of land the size of a shed.
That's all I need.
I know.
And then who's going to break into that immediately? Somebody will.
Of course. Like, oh, look, there's there's a shed.
Okay, it would be a well-structured garage I'd have to go serious on the security. I'd get cameras, but that's what I need because I'm sick of paying. 10 years has been too long. I've been paying for a storage facility unit.
Like a condo, buy a storage option, and then maybe not.
No, unfortunately, not really. I own a condo, and it has very limited space that's available to me. And now I have an entire business of disc golf stuff, and I need the right place to put it. That's for sure. So, so I can't put it in a backyard because I live in a condo complex. We own the condo, but that does not give me access to more land, unfortunately.
I think your better bet is to buy a plot of land and bury it.
That's not a bad idea.
Then no one will break in, and you can have your own little treasure map.
Okay. Yeah, that would be not a bad idea. Then I guess I'd have to have Simon over again, and he could dig through all the plastic like he did a year ago. I had some exciting news that won't excite you or some of you others, but I have officially, as of a week or so ago now already, locked in for a flight that will take me to Thailand.
Oh, cool.
I'll be flying onto the island of Koh Samui yet again. So super excited to do that. Be back for the Samui Swine Classic. And then, after staying there for a week or so, also heading over to the Asia Open. And I'm super excited. I'll be actually flying into Taipei, taking the high-speed rail, the 90 minutes to the south side of Taiwan. Kaohsiung, I believe, is the pronunciation there. Kaohsiung City, or Kaohsiung, is where the tournament's going to be. And then being at the Asia Open disc golf tournament the week after. So super excited. I know just last week, we talked to George Kamenos. It was great to hear from him and everything that they have going on. I will see George when I go over there, but I am just so stoked and very excited to be all locked in for this year's adventure to Thailand and then Taiwan. So, also in a few weeks, we're going to be catching up with, speaking of international travels, Dustin Leatherman is going to be joining us, and we're going to talk a little bit about Zambia. That's coming up in the next few weeks, so look to hear from him soon. I had the pleasure of hanging out with, I said, the FPO card for first round in South Florida this weekend, and that consisted of Esther Schultz along with Wisconsin's own Lindsay Fish and Ellen Widboom, and Esther was talking about her time in Zambia and how she's hoping to go back and be impactful there yet again. And,
Awesome.
and she said something that really maybe we underplay now or don't think about much now, but she said, how crazy would it be to be thinking about a major winner or a world champion to potentially come out of a place like Zambia? As they're introduced to golf, they're so enthusiastic and playing as much as they possibly can. It just, obviously, that would make for a really incredible story to have, as this mission has been over there, and how Hannah and Dustin and Esther and others have been part of that mission. That'd be really cool to see someday. So, guess we'll keep an eye out. Zambia, world champion coming from Zambia. When are we going to see worlds in another country?
We're coming up on 2020. Last time I checked.
Yep. Good.
2020. Wait, are we counting Canada? Another country?
It's technically international. It's another country. So
Clearly.
yeah, I guess. Yeah.
I feel like Canada could happen clearly much sooner. Like, I could see a 2022 in Canada. I couldn't see a 2022 in Europe. I think for overseas, 2024 makes 2020. I'm going to go 2023. 2023 would be an overseas one. But if, where they have the British, the BC championships, is that what it is? The Canadian championships over in British Columbia, I believe it is. I think that could maybe do something. I don't know the number of courses they have by any means or the support. I do think they put on a really good event, but it takes way more than a really good event. But I think I'm going to say 2023, 2024. So one of those 2 years will be overseas.
And I will cheat a little and think back to the last time it wasn't in the U.S. You want to guess a year on that?
1990. No, it wasn't. It was before Kenny, I think. 1989.
I was going to say 1987, and I'm sure somebody, if we go to the world, maybe if we can go to the world, I'm sure this is in a much easier place.
Such a jag, you got it right on.
Was
the
that right?
head.
1987,
Ontario, Canada, 1987.
There was a quick conversation regarding international worlds this weekend, and it looks like 1987, I believe, was the last time. We're sure it wasn't anywhere in the 90s. 94, 95 was Port Arthur.
I don't think Kenny.
97, the board is saying. So there might have been one in 97 as well. I apologize. Was that Toronto also? Greg Hosfeld, your champion in 1987. And Michael Sullivan from Canada, taking second at the time. I'll just
Well,
read down all-
1997 was Charlotte.
Yeah, okay. And 96 was Indiana. I believe it was South Bend, Indiana. That was before I really cared or knew about world championships on the pro side. Yeah, so those wouldn't have been there.
Someone, Ray Zerhausen says, we need a quality decade wrap-up show. I don't feel like we're qualified to do that. I mean, I guess we are qualified. I don't feel we're prepared to do that. I think that the 2000s were kind of the, would you say that was like the Nate Doss decade? 2000 to 2010.
I mean,
He had what?
he won in 05, 07, and 2011.
Okay, so 11. I keep thinking he's 05, 07, 09, but it's 05, 07, 11. So, but for sure, 2010 to 2020 is Macbeth. There's
Yeah, I mean, winning 2012 and then the next 4 years. And then,
there's just, I feel like it's almost, for MPO, it's almost pointless that you can just say, yeah, Macbeth was really good, and he's still really good, but that this decade belonged to him. Everything revolved around him. I mean, we had Ricky in there for 2 years, but even so, it was Paul versus Ricky. The whole decade practically revolved around Paul. So I feel like a decade retrospective, as cool as it would just be a Paul Macbeth highlight show on the MPO side. On the FPO side, clearly we've seen, Paige do her odd year champion dance.
Mm-hmm.
But we've seen a lot more variety in the FPO than we have in the MPO. Kat, Sarah, Cunningham, right? 2011.
2010.
10, okay.
Or
Who won the same year that EMAC won?
that was
Sarah.
that was 2010.
Oh, 2010. I keep thinking it's
Yeah,
2011.
EMAC, and because
So-
2011 was in Santa Cruz.
Senator. Oh yeah, that's right.
Paige.
I was there with Paige. So it's the FPO would be a much more interesting retrospective for a decade in review than I think the MPO would. Yeah, Shoestrick was a 3-time USDGC champion, and I just feel like we maybe I'm wrong, that we overshadow USDGC with World so much that it doesn't quite matter as much. And I hate to say that, but that's just the way we treat as a sport our majors, that Worlds has that extra leg up. And, Will was a big deal in the early 2010 through 2015, but he kind of, injuries and then Prodigy, and he just is doing a different thing now, as we heard from him merely a week ago.
Chris is saying it'd be cool just to compare the stats of the game, manufacturers, molds, money comparison. Well, one thing that Schwebi talked about, which can be said of, I think of it always as movies. When movies talk about, well, they opened with umpteen million this year, or they opened this weekend with umpteen million, and then I always think, okay, well, that's great. With inflation, what does that really mean to today's numbers, so on and so forth, when we see other movies, and we're always smashing previous box office years. And I always think, too, about not just inflation and as to what the dollar is maybe necessarily worth, but just the overall cost of the theater when you went to the movie, and it was $4.25 or 99 cents when I was a kid at a really dumpy movie theater. Well, the best one the town had to offer at the time, but it was 99 cents to go to a movie, and now you're getting into movies for $14, $16, $18. Like, clearly the box office numbers are going to be staggering compared to what they were so many years ago. But Schwebi touched on the amount of money that can be won, and to think about when Ken Climo won in 21 out of 23 events in I'm going to call it 1995. Like, now I have to go look.
But are our B and C tiers really that much better paying? honestly, I don't feel that they are.
Uh,
I think they're a little bit. Now,
they are.
Our Pro Tour, our National Tour, our majors, hands down, better paying than they were back in Kenny's day, or even Schwebe's. But I don't feel like our B tiers, C tiers, it's hard to
they are.
judge.
No, they definitely are. And I'll say this. Now, granted, their entry fees have gone up.
Yeah, that's really what it is.
But
It's just entry
I'll
fees
also
going
say,
up.
I think about the C tier I ran a few weeks ago. Nothing more than a silly number in my head. I thought it was great. I think I paid out 4 spots in the Pro Division. It was a relatively small field. 3 out of the 4 spots, I like the idea of having triple digits at least. Now, it's a C tier. I put more than 100% back into the purse. So I met and exceeded all of the requirements there. But, and it could have been significantly less than what it was. But I thought it was cool. Okay, first place at least is going to get $200. Second place got triple digits. Third place got, I think, $100. I rounded it up because I thought, well, it just feels that much cooler to say you got at least $100. Now, we're still talking about, disc golf rich here, of course. But to say the payouts are definitely more significant than they were back in those days. And here's what I was just referencing a moment ago. Ken Climo had arguably some will argue, of course, one of the greatest seasons in disc golf history in 1995. He also came to Wisconsin. I saw him, talk to him. That was the first time I'd only been involved in the sport for a year or two. I was just a little teeny bopper. And he played in 26 tournaments, winning 23 of them.
He won $2,300 for winning Worlds.
$2,350 for winning the 1995 Worlds. So he won 23 of 26 tournaments, and his take-home was $19,107.
It was a different time.
And I'm looking at some of these. He had an A-tier win, the Dogwood Crosstown Classic, I believe, probably in North Carolina.
But look, a B tier win for $320. I mean, your B tiers, those are still pretty common payouts for B tiers and C tiers. Now, again, the majors, or as the A tiers, the A tier is kind of the NT of back then, but the Super Tour, as we called it, that's where it's different. Imagine, wow, I can't even imagine a World's paying out less than $7,500 for the winner.
It's
like now, I'm saying.
Yeah,
now that we've expanded and growth. Clearly back then.
Just think to have one of the greatest years of all time.
That is, as Maker says, that's a lot of Arby's.
Yeah. He had the beef for sure.
Well, back then it was, where's the beef?
Yeah. He won the Japan Open, which was 43. Interesting stat. He won the 95 Japan Open, that was 150 class major, for $4,350, which was almost double what he won for winning the World Championships a few months later. Interesting number there. He won the Great Lakes Open back when the Great Lakes was definitely one of the most premier stops in all of the country. He won that for $1,184. And the Brandy Windjammer for $1,200, and the Disc Golf Journal Vegas Jackpot for $1,000. Yeah, just pretty incredible to look back. We won't go all the way down yesterdecade.
Nah, we don't need to do that.
Interesting stuff.
We were going to do a this decade retrospective, not a 90s retrospective.
I know, but back in my day. So one of the questions, speaking of money, that I just posed, and we won't get too far off the rails here tonight, but I'm posing a legitimate, and I want people to know this. I actually wasn't coming at this with a slanted or skewed perspective. I really want to know if somebody out there has a brilliant idea or answer for this. And that question that I posed today on Facebook was, who should be paying for your medium-sized or smaller to medium-sized tournaments? And we'll go even small-scale A tiers, even we can throw in there, kind of putting them all together. Large B tier, small A tier. I'm not talking about the Pro Tours, the National Tours.
This is an easy answer. It's the event, period.
And where does the event? Let me dig deeper. Where does the event get that money from?
I don't care. Probably sponsors, but that's up to them. Like it just there's. It's not a unique. It's a situation where if they want coverage, they need to pay for it, and if they get it from the sponsor, that's up to them to decide. If they pull it from the from the purse somehow, that's up to them if they can get away with it and figure out the financials of it. I don't see a big discussion point here. I think that the event should pay if they want coverage. Now, again, there's always situations where
I understand the event, but I'm trying to peel back another layer, and then the term sponsors, of course, get thrown out. It makes perfect sense to some degree.
Maybe,
but I'm asking who are those Well, and that's why there's more to it. I don't think it's just black and white. One has to decide. I feel like, what is the objective? Are you trying to show off your course? Are you trying to impress potential sponsors for upcoming years? Are you trying to impress your visitors and convention bureau or your park and recs department? Like, do you have a highly recognizable name that's going to have a draw? Are you going to have a gallery on site or by viewership? I mean, those are all things that I think need to get considered, which is why I'm posing the question for what people think as to who would pay for that. And
there's so many. The problem with the question is there's too many variables. Like, there's not an answer. There's not an easy answer. You just
okay. Let's just chalk it up as no one effing knows, and we'll move on then.
Yeah, kind of. Like, I know it sounds silly, like, oh well, just ignore the question, but ultimately, there's like I said, there's two people. There's two entities. There's the event and the media crew. The event pays the media crew. Where the event gets the money from, that's their business. Like, nobody has any right or nobody should expect anyone to pay for coverage. The event shouldn't expect sponsors to pay for it. They can if they want. The event shouldn't expect the players to pay for it unless that's what the event wants, and they can find a way to work the money. There is no should. Who should pay for it, or who could pay for it, but that even brings in an example of anybody could pay for it. I could pay for it.
Okay, well, where's the most logical source?
Right now, manufacturers. Like, which is, you want to sponsor, so to speak. Mm-hmm. That's the most logical, but ultimately, they don't, they might not see any advantage in it or care about a local B tier in North Carolina, so to speak. Even if you have Jeremy Colling and Chris Dickerson playing, that B tier may. Here's my opinion. Media coverage should be used on smaller events, for events that want to get bigger. Like, are you a B tier that's striving to be an A tier? Sure. Maybe you need to your club or whomever, try to talk a manufacturer, pitch to get some media crew, hopefully a local crew, whoever that is, whoever's nearest to you. Are you an A tier hoping to get a national tour or a pro tour move? Same thing. But for your local B tier that never wants to be anything but a B tier, you should never pay for coverage. Never. There's no reason to. Nobody cares. If your local guy wants to come and do it for free, try to, hone his craft, awesome. Let them come. Don't charge them. Don't pay for them. Maybe give them a lunch if you can afford it. But if you're not looking to expand your event, there are events that will fill at 120 players in a B tier, and that's your cold turkey is a great example. Mm-hmm. It's probably going to fill every time you make it a single day. Why would anyone ever want to cover that unless there was a major player there? A Paul Macbeth, a Simon Lizotte, a Ricky Wysocki.
Well, I think from a tournament director standpoint, you may want to recognize or you may want to recognize or thank existing sponsors that you have.
Of course.
That could be one way you could do it, is to have some involvement with media coverage. Or the other thing you could be doing is showing off, so to speak, or highlighting a particular course. Maybe you don't have a top-level player, but you have a really good course that the Parks Department, the city, or you yourself as a designer, you want to show off. I mean, those are other reasons to have media coverage. It doesn't have to just be about expansion.
But, well, you're kind of looking to, if you're looking to expose a particular event, course, or anything, it's probably because you're looking to expand. Like,
or draw attention.
And if you're trying to draw attention to, if you're working with a Parks Department to draw attention to a particular park, then maybe the Parks Department should pay for it. Like, that's fine,
Mm-hmm.
but there is, I would never, like, I don't know, there's so few reasons in my ideas to almost ever film a B tier. So few. Like, and again, you want to be you're a new media crew cutting your teeth on whatever you're doing. Awesome. Go cover local B tiers, but don't expect to get paid.
Sure.
Don't expect anything.
Yeah. And I've also made it
thought.
very clear that I don't, just like with any size of crew, I don't have this notion of, I don't want to just say equality or like everyone deserves a shot to go cover. Anyone with a camera should be able to just show up and cover anything at any time.
No,
and I do feel like
not.
you need to earn your stripes and that you do need to know how to edit and you work your way up through maybe either a tier of events or you work your way into compensation. Of course, I mean, I feel like I'm a product of that.
That wasn't the case 10 years ago.
Well,
But,
10 years ago,
because
no one was filming anything, hardly.
Yeah.
And then if it got filmed, that was like, oh, cool, great. And then finally,
even 8 years ago, we'll say
at some point, someone said, wow, there's views on this. This is actually valuable to someone. And it's valuable to someone or anyone for many different reasons, for all the reasons we just said, and then some, why you would want to have coverage at any given event. So I will continue to read the post. It's been very, I don't know if consistent is quite the word, but I'm open. I just wanted everyone to know that in making that post that I did, and it's got, 200 comments on it right now, I don't have the solution either. That's exactly why I'm posting it. And I'm sure some people are like, oh, Terry's trying to stir the pot, or it has this slanted angle at it. I don't. Somebody a moment ago said no media crew should get paid at all, like ever.
I don't believe that. There's always a reason.
Because the media crew should be, in fact, paying a tournament for the right to come cover a tournament, and therefore they should go out and get their own sponsor. So I'll use me as an example for post-production.
That's only if you want. That's only if you want to cover the event. Like,
sure.
If you are a media crew and you say, "Oh, cool, I want to cover Mad City Open, our local A tier." Usually, I don't know what it's gonna be this year. For all I know. The event says no, we're good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, then, of course. I'm not suggesting anybody gets forced into paying for anything.
Correct. Then maybe you pay to do that. Maybe you pay to cover that. But if the event is looking to grow the exposure, no, then I think the media crew should get paid. And if, again, there's all sorts of situations, like an established media crew maybe has a Patreon, but a new media crew probably doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
Or if they do, it's minuscule.
Yeah.
It just to say that the media crews shouldn't get paid is very
it's
myopic in the view. When there is huge demand, like a pro tour, a national tour, a worlds, where there's demand for post-production, where there is money to be made, absolutely the media crews should be paying 120%. I've said it for a year now, almost 2 probably. Those crews should be RFPing. They should be paying for that right because there's money to be made. But where there's no money to be made, it doesn't make any sense for the media crew to be paying for that. So I don't know. There's a lot of different variables, like I said, and I think the conversation is good to have. It's always fun to throw it out there, and I'm laughing at some of the responses, but I do think that there's a lot out there.
All right, guys. And even on the board here, I fully understand what everyone is talking about. We can look at both sides of the coin, and I, maybe more than most, will experience just that, both sides of the coin. Or a funny transition of going from filming when no one even thought about filming and or getting paid. Like I certainly didn't pick up a camera to start filming thinking I'm getting paid for it, to then moving into a stage for a few years of fundraising and getting paid to film tournaments, to at some point, if the demand is there and if the viewership is great enough, that we'll flip the script and we'll flip it on its head and we'll say, okay, now the film crews actually pay the tournament directors or pay the tournament or whatever it is for the rights to come film. We'll see how that continues to shift throughout time. It's been all of that has happened in some regard all in the last 8 years. So who really knows where it's going to go from there? The one closing thought on this conversation I'll leave you guys with is there is a large misconception out there about YouTube earnings.
Here's
or misconception, and also just we'll call it ignorance, just lack of knowledge, maybe is a better word.
So, real quick breakdown. I think I've said it here before. On average, a YouTube video, you get paid about between $7 and $8. Maybe it could be a little more, could be a little less, depending on what you're doing, per 1,000 views per ad. So if you see a pre-roll ad, a mid-roll ad, and a post-roll ad, and you have, let's just say you have 7,000 people. I probably made that hard. If you have 1,000 people watching the entire video and they see all 3 ads, each person, what, you just made $21?
Yeah.
1,000 people for 3 ads, you made $21. If everybody watches all 3 ads, if they don't have ad blockers turned on, all that stuff. So that is where, so you think about that. That is where, and that's just YouTube. That's the YouTube built-in ad. It's called a CPM. It's about $7 to $8 on average for a regular YouTube viewer. Now, higher demand channels will earn better CPM because advertisers want to advertise on them. It wouldn't surprise me if Jomez was at $9.
Sure.
But ultimately, it's, let's just say $7 to $8 per 1,000 views per commercial. I mean, that's YouTube ad money, period.
Yeah, so it would, if you saw, I was looking at a recent video of my own. It had, I'm going to say 20,000 views on it for 9 holes. And then if the back was the same, roughly. So for those views on that 18 holes of golf, I think it was a total of roughly $200 made via YouTube. So if you were just to think about that for a moment, if you and another person were to travel somewhere, and don't, please do no one take this as complaining. This is really just to be enlightening more than anything, and hopefully helpful for others to understand. So if you think about traveling to cover an event, lodging, getting there, all of your camera equipment probably cost you a few $1,000s, all of that stuff, and then the 2 to 4 hours of filming, the 4 to 10 to 12 hours of video editing, whatever, all that stuff, you and then likely another person. And once you get into a certain status, we'll say, if you pull in $200, you're probably doing pretty well.
I mean,
I'm
looking at right now a video that we put out, the Bad Breaks video. About 12,000 views, $62.
Wow, and that's how long?
It's been around for...
No, how long is the video itself?
Oh, that video is like 16, 12, 14 minutes. I don't recall offhand. $62 is what this has earned in It was published December 2nd. So 2 weeks.
So it's gotten the majority of its views by now.
Oh, yeah, it's not going to make much more. It's peaked out. It's, you usually are going to make most of what you're going to make within the first week. And some videos have retention value. It's made about $62. 12,000 views.
AKA Disc Golf Rich.
Disc Golf Rich.
That's why we are rolling in.
And to be fair, this video took about
well,
just to edit it, it took about an hour to an hour and a half.
yeah, and
then that doesn't include all the pre-work I did as far as assembling all the clips and throughout the year and this and that. I had a lot of pre-work done to it.
It's a very different video than a normal 9 or 18 hole
this
shot by shot.
Correct. That's
graphics, commentary. I mean, just it's
totally different.
Yes.
Yeah, this is just I literally assembled clips. I didn't have to do any commentary. That's what this video made. So, anyway. I just thought that would be an interesting perspective to point at. And this one actually has a $9 CPM. Not bad.
So the CPMs can fluctuate just a little bit. Really, the whole point of my side story here is the fact that yes, money can be made on YouTube. That's clearly not a secret. Some people make way more money. If you're opening toys, your 10-year-old is opening toys and you're getting 1 million views, they might only be paying $2 on that CPM. So it's not nearly as much because it's a much more competitive space. We're in a somewhat of a niche market, and our CPM being that $7, $8 to $10 range seems I don't want to say above average. It's where disc golf is. We'll put it that way. But I want people to know that when you say, well, yeah, but you've got 30,000 views on a half-hour video, you're talking $100. We're not talking thousands upon thousands of dollars. Now, clearly, someone like Jomez doing much better, as they should be. They have an insane production value. Their videos are top-notch. They're the best that we see in disc golf. When they're averaging 60 to 80 to 100 to 150,000 views per 9, you're talking about substantially more money. They may have a higher CPM. We don't, of course, have access to something like that. But you're talking about making substantially more, and even that isn't rich. So I just wanted to throw that out there because I know a lot of people continue to fall back on the idea of, but all that YouTube money, it's not all that YouTube money. If we were getting on the regular, getting 1 million views for every 9 or every 18 holes that were put out, that would be a different story. But clearly, that's not the norm. So there you go. Thought I'd throw it out there. Something to think about. It's all growing. It's all evolving. I don't think anyone has all of the right answers, but those are some things to think about. Now, Johnny V clearly does not
have all of the
There's
answers.
one thing he doesn't have. It's
literally, just ask me anything. I have all of the answers to life.
Yeah,
just
if
saying.
only.
I do.
And I'm not sure. I know some of the questions on the board are talking about repeats and where they play. I don't know. I don't know if I think YouTube kind of keeps a few things secret. They don't have an exact formula for every single thing that they do. The things that they do have formulas for, they don't necessarily make public. So we don't know every single detail. There's a lot of factors that can go into that. And that's all assuming that you are fully monetized and your channel is of that nature already. So if I think about, your starter channels, just as mine, of course, was at one point, whether it was Smashbox or the Disc Golf Guy channel, you're talking about having a video being produced and there's 700 views on it. Even if they were monetized already, that's like 6 cents or whatever the case might be. So nobody's getting rich from exclusively from the YouTube algorithms.
Most of the money in post-production is made from outside sponsors. Asking a company, Innova, Discraft, MVP, to sponsor an individual event. So saying, hey, MVP, we know Sarah Hokum is at this event. It's an A tier. She's probably going to be featured on the card or two. Would you like to sponsor our video for 500, 1,000, 2,000, whatever that demand is? That is going to get more money than usually your YouTube views. Yeah. So, just a thought.
All right. So take that for what you will, as we talked about that. Speaking of purchases, I also was directed today. Someone let me know there is a new storefront. I know SmashBoxx is working on one. Johnny V's at the controls of that.
Just paid for it, and it is being rolled out to the final touches are going to be rolled out to their dev site, which then they're just going to hand us over, and we're going to hand it over to Tony Boyko, and he's going to put it live hopefully pretty soon.
Well, you can also go out to the official PDGA store.com. We've seen them come up with a few shirts that I'll say are not your typical branding that we've seen from the PDGA. Now, I'm not sure how new these are, but, well, they have to be relatively new. I can't say I go out to PDGAstore.com all too often, but there are a number of shirts that are available out there and some other items. Some people have wondered exactly what's driving the push.
I like that one. That one's a nice one.
Really, that's funny you say that, because I think that's the one I like the least by a long shot.
Seriously, you like that one?
This one.
Yeah, you like that one less than the first one you showed? Like, this is the one on the PDGA site.
Yeah,
it looks like a sound or heartbeat or something, and it's got an outline
a
of
ballerina?
a guy. No, it's an outline of a guy throwing a disc, you goober. You know that.
I thought those were terribly constructed mountains in Denver and a ballerina-looking ghost figure.
That is way better. Go back. No. That's way better than this.
It's all about that target demographic. We'll who knows where they're going to hit and with whom. But anyway, making our plug for the PDGAstore.com.
Find one you like and go out and buy it. That's what I'll say.
Tell them SmashBoxxTV sent you. Sound like a plan? All right, looks like you've got a Patreon giveaway just about ready to go.
Do you have something here? If not, I do.
It's entirely up to you. I've got stuff we can give away for sure.
Well, why don't we give away box number 2 of our disc member?
What?
Yeah. Remember last week when we gave a disc member box away?
Yep.
And I said they sent us 2? We're going to give away the second one tonight.
Let's do it. Ace Run Productions. We love you guys. Thank you so much. A contribution to us. That's awfully kind and sweet of you. Thank you for the super chat here. Saying, thank you, SmashBoxx, for a fantastic 2019. Looking forward to 2020, the year of hindsight. Well, we do very much appreciate it. I mean, I figure if I just whine and pander enough, right, to trying to beg for money, no, that's not what my previous conversation was.
Anyway, patreon.com/SmashBoxxTV.
Give us money that way.
If you want to give us money that way, that's all. We're always open to that. Discmember.com as well. If you would like to support them, they support us. They have the monthly disc in a box, or 2 or 3. I don't know what they're giving away these days. I don't open these boxes because they're yours. We give them to you. You can be qualified by going out to patreon.com/SmashBoxxTV or SmashBoxxTV, SmashBoxx.tv/weekly giveaways. And every week I grab those particular weekly ones. So you need to fill it in every week. Yeah, that's what we got. Let's give something away. We have 200 people that are eligible for this giveaway, Terry.
That is incredible. So thank you guys so much for supporting us. The question is, how do we give it away? How did you organize the list here tonight? That's the real question.
I organized it by email address. There's really 2 good ways to do it. It's by name or email, because not everybody has the other options filled in, like address. We only ask for addresses from people that sign up for the $3 and above club, where you get your yearly collector disc, which we'll be ordering hopefully pretty soon, and the $10 or the $5 and above, the $10 one where we do the clothing. So I'm rolling out some clothing pretty soon. I've got 2 weeks to get that taken care of as well. So all that fun stuff.
All right. Well, I'm going to say we have 1 or less shows left in the year. Probably 1. So the very first number you draw.
The very first number I draw. So
you generate here on random.org.
All right. I think let me put it over to this page so I can show it, because for some reason that screen isn't coming up. But the very first one we show, that is going to be 191. Wow, it's way at the bottom. 191 is...
I'm sitting in suspense.
Ville. Congratulations, Ville. Ville Venalanelin.
Nailed it.
Yes.
Awesome.
Congratulations, Ville. We will get that. We'll get this box shipped over to you. We'll send
Is
you an
he
email.
out of, what do I see there? Ohio?
No.
All right. Well,
This is an overseas one, Terry.
awesome. Just like the last one.
We'll be shipping this one overseas again.
Nice. Glad to do so.
Yes.
Even at $22.60 shipping. All glad to do so. All right. A few more comments coming in off the board. Let's see if we can get caught up here quickly. Well, we can't announce that media team. They didn't super chat us. Just kidding. Smashbox, can you please talk Paige Pierce into going to the PCS Open next year?
Nope.
Love seeing you here this season. Would be awesome to have her along with Macbeth.
It would
So
be.
you want the top men and women's players in the world to come visit? I can understand that request. They both know about it. I will say that. They both know the PCS Open, and
It's an awesome event from what I've heard.
it's incredible. It's a lot of fun, and it's on a really solid course in Norway. It's just a matter of about when it's going to fit in the schedule, and if one or both or either would possibly attend this year. I would love to see it. I concur. And again, they both know about the event. I know that much.
Correct. When I said no, I meant no, I can't talk them into it because they're not going to listen to us.
No. Cody says, if you ever need an additional photographer for East Coast events, let me know. Full frame FD Mark II with L Series glass. Oh, wow. You are so out of my league. I'm just impressed I read the MK2 correctly as knowing that's Mark II. That's the extent of my knowledge. But thank you, Cody. Appreciate it. East Coast, yeah, I'll be over there at some point. Can we get an artist to enter a contest? What can we get? Artist to enter a contest, Smashbox disc. I'm not sure I'm following what you're asking. Ace Run again, thank you. Does the box include a pair of your 1990s Nike sunglasses? No, he still has them sitting here, though.
Yeah, they are. They're right here. Pretty sure we've officially decided that they are counterfeits.
I don't know. We should hustle them on the market. See if we can get for them. Some is just really exclusive. That's
maybe what I'll do is the next non-overseas, because I don't want to pay for the shipping on these overseas. Maybe the next non-overseas winner will get one of the pairs.
Wesley Warren, we appreciate your support as well with this nice super chat. Thank you so much. He says, thank you for the most informative coverage and the most in-depth content in this sport. We all love so much. Cheers, JV and Terry. So thank you, Wesley. We very much appreciate it. Dan Harbeck, you've been relatively silent lately. I'm not going to call you out for reducing or eliminating your Patreon support of the Disc Golf Guy.
He just Patreon supported Smashbox for $5.
What?
Shifting his loyalties.
Ouch.
I like it, Dan.
I don't want to share it with Johnny. No, but thank you for all of your support, Dan. Talking about Star Wars, I don't think there was any, or Star Wars? Is that supposed to be Star Wars? I don't have any updates. Johnny, do you have anything to bore me with?
The Mandalorian, still really good.
Okay.
I will say that the last 3 episodes, I'm ready for something to happen.
Oh.
That the first 3 were, it kind of built a story. The next 3 just kind of feel like they've been treading a little bit of water. The last one was more of a prison break. And it was a really good episode, but again, we're not advancing the plot anywhere. It's a bad guy of the week kind of thing going on, and I'm waiting. We only have 2 episodes left. The next one's tomorrow night, guys. It usually comes on a Friday, but don't forget tomorrow night, Mandalorian, because Wednesday, and then I believe it might be on the next Friday. For some reason, they're releasing this one early, so the new Mandalorian will be out tomorrow night. I'm hoping the last 2 are awesome. The other show that I'm excited, I'm already through like 5 or 6 episodes. The Expanse on Amazon Prime. Still the best sci-fi on television. Hands down.
I'll believe you. Thank you, Cody. Yeah, please reach out. We appreciate it. And then if somebody was talking about doing a design for the Smashbox TV disc, I still do not have one that was submitted to me. And pretty soon, it's funny, I actually started messing around with a concept of my own. You really don't want me doing it, guys. I'll tell you that. But if it comes down to that, we will.
Oh, we will.
Episode 7 comes out. All right. And Ray said he officially joined the SmashBoxxTV Patreon. We appreciate that, Ray, very much.
Thank you, Ray.
Finally saying he finally put his money where his mouth is. So that's awfully kind of you guys. I don't know that we have too much more here, Johnny. I do know I will throw out the idea that I believe both the Pro Tour and the PDGA, who are actively searching both for some form of media people, go out and find them on their sites. I know those deadlines are looming in the next week or so. So if you want to have some role in media, whether it's with the PDGA,
I mean, you don't have to ask me twice. 6 figures, I'm there.
Yeah, that was one of the challenges that people, or comments that people kept making, is at least I know from the PDGA's perspective, is they said, yeah, that sounds like a really great job, but your pay isn't there, and it's going to be there for the right person and the right opportunity. It might not be for you, it might not be for me, or whoever that might be. I understand there's a lot of people saying that, well, that doesn't work for me. Well, you're right. Not every job and every pay scale
6 figures, that's all I'm asking.
That's all you want?
That's all I want. Not including the decimal points. I mean, I can do it. For that amount, I can quit my current job as an IT manager, and we can make that work.
All right, Daniel George Hamilton says, Smashbox, thank you as always for everything you do for disc golf, and Terry, your sarcastic response on YouTube got me, and I had no clue I wasn't subscribed until you messaged me. I am now. #got him. Good. There you go. Johnny Disc Golf should do it, as one of Makers is suggesting for one of the roles.
I'll be curious to see what Johnny Disc Golf does next year. I haven't heard anything from him, whether or not he's going to be touring or what his status is. I know he did a lot of the PDGA stuff last year, including the wrap-up videos, a couple other things. I'm curious to see what he will be pursuing in 2020, if it was worthwhile for him to go on tour for a year.
Yeah, and not being under the, pretty much under the CCDG umbrella. It will be, we'll see where things shake out, and who's going to keep being out on the road, hustling around or not, and how people will come in and out. Cody says, I spoke with, I believe, Mark, media coordinator at the PDGA at USDGC. We'll see. You probably spoke with Media Marty.
Marty, probably.
Is who you probably spoke with. We know a local. We'll talk about it afterward as to someone else that submitted for one of those jobs.
Really?
Yeah. It would be great to see him get it as well. So, good people.
Oh, I know what we're talking.
All right, guys. I think we're going to call it. It's been fun. We appreciate you guys joining us, as always. Hopefully you learned a little insight, or you got bored to death hearing about CPMs and other back-end YouTube details. But it is worth knowing as you're making informed decisions how and where you want to send any support, if any. Some people want to just keep watching, and that's totally fine as well. Just know you're not as loved as if you're supporting a crew financially.
We like you. We don't like you.
Exactly. So we're going to close out. Again, appreciate it. Have a great Christmas, holiday, seasonal greetings, things, whatever else you want to call it. We'll probably see
2
you.
2 weeks, probably, at some point in 2 weeks.
Maybe in 13 days, in the 30th.
That sounds about right. The 30th or the 1st, one or the other. We'll figure it out.
Probably see you, sometime around, maybe, either the 30th or the 1st. We'll get that figured out. We'll get it posted to Facebook. For Johnny V, Terry Miller, the Disc Golf Guy, have a good one. We appreciate it. Safe, happy holidays. We'll see you next time. You step inside the Smashbox.